I'm going to do today, just a little bit of an overview. I'm going to play some people's songs that really like stood out to me. I'm going to uh, do a little music lecture. I'm going to a little bit of a time for like Q&A about anything. That's super fun. And I'm also going to facilitate some an opportunity for people to break off into smaller groups, groups of, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15, and give people a chance to share their songs in like a smaller context. And I think that's about it. So yeah, and if you didn't make a song, you should still hang out and kick it. It's not like this isn't the type of experience where anyone is like penalized for not having made a song or anything like that. The whole goal here is having fun. And I think, my biggest goal is to just show that making music does not need to be hard. It does not need to be technically complex. It does not need to take days or weeks or months or years to make something that you can show to people or even DJ. And I'm curious, give me a thumbs up if you opened Ableton in the past 24 hours and tried making something. Let me fly around Zoom. Oh, keep your hands up. This is so awesome. So many people, so many thumbs. Oh, that's awesome. And guys, just blown away by the submissions. Got over 100 links in the forum. If you didn't have a chance to submit, feel free to submit when you have a second. I'll try to go back and keep on listening. And yeah, so don't feel like you missed the boat by any means. Yeah, all right. So let's shift gears and move over to some like Ableton questions for you guys. So if you made a song in the past 24 hours or open Ableton, can you comment what your experience was like? And you can say anything. You can say, I got so overwhelmed and just closed my computer immediately. You can say it was really fun. You can say it was really boring. Just honest. There's no right or wrong answer here. And comment in the chat. Connor, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna speak on how I felt about running the Ableton challenge,
Dude,
but I can do it in the chat too if you'd like.
you're on the mic. It's good to see you, by the
All
way.
right, yeah,
Talk to
good to
me.
see
What's
you.
up?
All right, so how I was feeling with it was like, dude, the thing that I've been like struggling with learning Ableton the most is literally just the keyboard shortcuts. Because I'll start like working on something and I'll get it right, and then I'll be like, okay, cool, and then I go to do something else, and then I just like completely messed up trying to paste it in, or like, dude, it took me so long to just figure out the Command Shift M. Like, I swear to God, dude. That's the thing is I'm always just looking up. I'm like, how do I do this little keyboard shortcut and stuff like that? That's like what slows me down the most. Because like once you have a rhythm going, it's like, all right, just keep rolling with it, you know?
Fair enough.
But
Did you feel like you were able to break through at all and feel that momentum at any point?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Sick.
Absolutely. I mean,
Awesome.
I started you know what's funny is the later that night after we met at the USC conference, I was like I got home and I was like enough playing around. I downloaded Ableton that night. So I've
Let's
had like a
go.
week or two of experience with it, but that was like my first time getting to mess around with like the .adg files and stuff like that. Because
Mhm.
previously I had just been using like chords I made with Serum or like samples and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was cool like actually getting to learn the stuff that's more built into Ableton rather than just using Ableton as a workstation for audio files I already had.
Dude, awesome. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm sure whether you're brand new or an experienced producer who can relate to what Connor just said about like that hump of like, what are the buttons? What are the shortcuts? What do you do? And, I think what's great about a challenge like this is my, I think it can just help lower that feeling of overwhelm, like all the limitless things that Ableton can do, and just try to get you moving so that you can start actually creating something. And with a challenge like this, the number of, you know, you don't need to use every plugin that Ableton has. You don't need to use every advanced feature, and you can still end up with something awesome. And I think great way to learn. And then I think for people who have been making music for a long time, it's so easy to get stuck. Let's say you've learned how to use every plugin on Ableton and you downloaded 100 awesome VSTs and you open up a blank page and you're like, where do I even begin now? I don't know if anyone feels that way, but I think this is such a great reminder that you can just start with one simple thing and start making music and start having fun. Let me read some comments. Okay, cool. So I did with the free trial, but it's my first time and it was really overwhelming. Vega, I'm so glad you gave it a shot. Travis, I had already used my Ableton free trial, so I had to use Reaper. Fair enough. Jordan was working till the start of the session. That's awesome. Submitted just before class. Let's fucking go. Submitted at 11 this morning. And by the way, I feel like it's funny. I teach like a music boot camp, and one of my favorite things about it is when you have a strict deadline, being like it needs to be in by 11 a.m. or whatever. I feel like when I was in school, I would always procrastinate. And I feel like when it comes to music, sometimes if you procrastinate and you only have 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, sometimes I feel like that can be really good for creativity because you can't when you don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of time to get stuck in perfectionism, that sort of thing. And you're just like, fuck it. I'm just sending this thing, gotta upload, good enough. Did anyone feel that way when they were uploading, being like, fuck it, I just gotta send up something? And it's so crazy. That mindset yields incredible results for making songs. I experience that all the time in a very different context. For me, there's many times where I'll have, excuse me, a gig and I'm going to be DJing that night. And there's a song that I want to play in my set. And I think this literally happened a week ago where there was a song that I was working on and I had my computer in the Uber and even had my computer out in the club by the DJ booth, bouncing down the thing and being like, I really want to play this. It might not be 100% there, but good enough. And I think that distinction between shooting for good enough versus the most perfect song of all time, I think is the difference between making something that feels really fun versus overcooking something to death and ruining it. And then you hate it. And then you're sick of it. And you never show it to anyone. And you just, maybe never finish it because you don't think it's ever perfect enough. Does anyone here relate to that? Awesome. And, it's just crazy. I think the spirit of good enough and not giving a fuck and being like, fuck it, I'm sending this in. I think on a weird kind of like energetic level, there's something so beautiful about that. I like to think about the energy that goes into making a song and the energy that you feel when you're listening to a song, maybe like on a dance floor. So if you're on a dance floor and you're listening to this song and the song is riddled with like pressure, scrutiny, insecurity, like, I mean, I feel like that's not the energy that you would want while you're dancing. You wouldn't want someone to come up to you and say like, I don't think your dancing is perfect. Or like, or is this or that. I think when we're dancing, I personally love the feeling of like not giving a fuck about how cool or not cool I look on the dance floor and not feeling judged and not feeling pressure to dance a certain way, to just be myself and just experience the music and have fun and get out of my head. I think my favorite moments making music are when those feelings are sort of, kind of mirrored in the process of making music itself. So not giving a fuck, having fun, just really feeling connected to that energy. And I think that's one of the amazing things about this challenge. Like, I think there's amazing songs that can be made when people are really connected to that feeling of having fun. And I'm just curious, give me a thumbs up if you had fun in the past 24 hours. Fuck yes, I'm flying around Zoom. Awesome, awesome. Because if that's happening, it really doesn't matter what you make. you're not wasting your time because you're enjoying your time. And if you're having fun and then you show someone what you did, my hope is that they might hear that you had fun. And if you hear someone having fun, kind of can be infectious. Let me keep on reading a few more comments before we move forward. Let's see, mind blowing. First complete song ever. Let's go, Diego. Liberating, getting back into the flow. Oh, fuck yeah. Norman, so refreshing. Ricky, lovely. I wish it was easier to Zoom. Fair enough. Tedious, dude. I'm here for that as well because it can feel that way. 909 challenge was so fun. Was hard to just use 909, was wanting to use serum. Michelle, I totally relate to that. And I think it is, that's why this challenge is so interesting, because for more experienced producers who might have these tools that you're used to not use them, can make this challenge really, really, really difficult. And what's interesting is I think if you can make a song, Michelle, I'm curious if you're there. Because I saw I listened to your song. Your song was like a few minutes long. Like you did finish something and send something through, right? You can hop on the mic if you'd like.
Yeah, I didn't think that I would be able to use it without like serum and using like a synth with a bass line, but then it worked out just using the 909 drum kit.
Oh, let's go. That's so awesome. And it's crazy because obviously when you make music, you can ultimately use whatever you want. And my hope is the next time you open Ableton, if you want to use serum, go for it. And instead of feeling, I think it's so easy to feel overwhelmed by the possibilities. But when you get comfortable with using so little, and then you bring one tool that you love back into the mix, it's just like going to be so fun. Does any of that resonate with you? Awesome. Awesome. Sweet. Thank you so much for hopping on. All right, let me keep on reading. It was nice keeping it simple and low pressure. Love it. Quick and easy. Lex, dope as fuck and felt super inspired. Oh, that's awesome. Devin, I had so much fun. Bjorn, it's starting to feel more familiar. Dude, love it. I kept it simple, a little frustrating because of my lack of Ableton knowledge. Feel you. And hopefully, for anyone who had any walls in my like Q&A, you can ask the most basic Ableton question. I'm just here to help and get people unstuck. Yanni, rough, but it was fun to try producing something for the very first time. Dude, that's huge. Can everyone unmute, make some noise for everyone who just fucking made some music?
Yeah.
Let's
go.
Unreal.
Let's go. Fucking go.
I really appreciate all your guys' positivity. And I think with that, let me share some songs that people did. And with sharing music, just a reminder, super vulnerable for many people. This might be their first song. This might be something that they spent 30 minutes on, 20 minutes on. We don't know. It could have been something sent right before this class started. And I think the more positive encouragement we get, the better. And I think before I move on, one thing that I'm curious about. Has anyone ever, sort of experienced negative judgment around music or DJing in your local community at some point in your life? Give me a thumbs up if you've ever experienced that negativity, that judgment. So first off, that's really tough. Whether it, ruins your day or slows you down, I feel like that energy, we can be sensitive to it, whether we realize it or not. And it can make everything so much more difficult. And I think the interesting thing about it is that negativity, that judgment is not productive for anyone. I feel like so often when you are faced with that judgment from someone else, there are times that judgment can be a projection of that person's insecurity, can be a projection of the judgment that person feels towards their own music or their own art. And, I think for anyone here who has ever sort of felt those judgments show up, it's interesting. I think entering into a place of positive thinking, I feel like is so not just beneficial, but so important for making music. If you are judgmental towards other people and are critical and are using language about like, oh, this song sucks, this DJ sucks, how are you going to turn that off when it's you who's DJing or you that's making music? And trust me, there's no way for for DJing or making music to be more difficult than if someone was behind you being like, this sucks, you're trash. Right. And you know, I'm not a big athlete, but I definitely know, it's like if you want to make that goal, you have to imagine that you can do it, and you being told you're never going to make it will never yield great results. I think with making music, I think such an important part. I mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but if you are working on a song, it is inherently not done yet. And if you engage an overly critical mindset on how good your song is before it's even done, it's like, imagine tasting a cake. I've been watching a lot of The Great British Baking Show. Imagine tasting a cake before it's even in the oven. It's like, you're going to be tasting raw eggs. Like it literally has no like correlation on how amazing this thing could be. And if you taste a cake before it's in the oven and you're like, I taste raw eggs, then you would be like, I'm just going to throw this out. And I feel like there's so many times where a song could be amazing and it could be one small tweak away from being done, or it could be amazing and you're just being hard on yourself. And I think one of my favorite examples of this situation unfolding for me was with a friend of mine who I had kind of showed him how to make music many, many years ago. And the first song that he ever made was this very cheeky bootleg of Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. And he showed it to me and I was like, this is awesome. And he listened and he just felt that the song was not feeling right. And because it wasn't feeling right, he was questioning everything. He was like, dude, this song sucks. Maybe I need to change the synths. Maybe I need to change the drums. Maybe I should do all of these big changes. Maybe I should just scrap it all together. And I took a look and a listen, and I noticed that the kick drum was a bit quiet. And I opened up his project and just made it literally 12 dB louder, which is like, 4 times as loud. And the song just hit perfectly. And it sounds like such an easy solution, but that's literally all I did. And I started playing it out. People were like, what is this remix? We put it up on SoundCloud as like a free download through my label, Fantastic Voyage. And a major label heard it and asked if they could help us clear the Whitney Houston sample. And the song ended up getting officially released. And this is my friend Benny Bridges. And here, I'll pull up the song. It's just such a crazy, crazy sort of like journey that this song went on. Here, and I'll share my screen real quick. But yeah, here's the song. Check it out. Yeah, on its way to like 1 million plays after a few years. And it's crazy because he wanted to scrap it. And it's awesome. And it's a song that I played like every set for, maybe a year or two. And if I had heard it when he showed me the rough draft and was like, doesn't feel perfect. Change everything. I don't know about this one. Maybe if I were someone who didn't like Whitney Houston, and I heard a Whitney Houston bootleg, I might just be like, I don't like this, even though just because of the vocal, Not that that would be the case for me, but it's so crazy, the songs that people scrap or don't show or don't release because of a self-judgment and insecurity or a comment from someone else. And I think the more that we can spread that positivity for other people, hopefully we can match that positivity for ourselves when we're making music, and yeah, not throw away a great song. So who's on board with showing some love, some positivity as we listen to some people's songs? Okay, sick. Fuck yeah. Let's do it. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if my audio is working? Awesome.
But the whole click snap snap. Whole lot of people around trying to smoke with the yak in your mouth. That we all know. Whole click snap. And we back.
So awesome.
Every day I'm shuffling.
Yes. So awesome.
Boys are sluts.
So awesome.
Dance. Dance, girl. Dance. Dance. Dance, girl.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll play a couple more.
5 seconds to catch your breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That pop, that make that money.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's do maybe one more here. Boom. All right, here. I want to play one. So sick. There was one that it was like, yeah, this one. Awesome. One more. I want to keep on playing all of them. Let's make sure everybody unmute, show some love. Let's fucking go. Unreal.
Sick.
So awesome. Guys, seriously, listening through the songs people made was such a such a delight, such a blast, so much incredible music. And it's wild because, you know, I feel like so many of these songs, even if they sound simple, could go off on the dance floor. And I feel like often it's really simple songs that can feel the best when we're trying to dance. Not to say that complicated songs can't do that, but it's just unbelievable how simple something can be that when it's played on a big sound system can make you move. And I think, you know, yesterday I asked people who felt the magic of a techno track in a club or a warehouse when it's just that one kick drum, boom, 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 and everyone can be freaking out. I feel like that really embodies what I'm talking about. So huge respect, huge love for everyone who, yeah, made music. I feel like so many of the songs that I heard, I could completely imagine being played on a dance floor, being played at a festival. And it's just insane what is possible in 24 hours, in half a day, in 1 hour, in 30 minutes. It's insane. And I'm just curious. Can you guys comment in the chat how long you spent on your song if you made one, and no right or wrong answers. 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 minutes. Jake, let's go. 1 hour. Wow. 2 hours, 6 hours, 45 minutes. Yes, Evan. 3 hours, 6+ hours the whole day, 4 hours while playing Fortnite. Amazing. 69 minutes. That's super specific. 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Dude, awesome. 3 hours felt like one though. 2 hours. Awesome. Awesome. I mean, it's crazy because I guess for most people, for a lot of people who make music, they can spend days or weeks or hours, hours and hours and hours instead of like 30 minutes, something like that. And one thing that I feel so strongly about when it comes to music is that there is no direct correlation between how much time and energy and effort you put into a song and what you get out. You can spend days, weeks, months, years on a song that turns out fine, and you can spend 30 minutes on a song that turns out amazing. Not to say that there aren't great songs that are made that do take a while. I feel like there's just literally no correlation, none whatsoever. And when it comes to music, when it comes to dance music, I feel like for me, a lot of the music that I really gravitate to can often feel slightly raw. It's kind of like with a burger. I feel like, some people prefer well done or medium. For music, I like my tracks on the rare side because I just feel like often there's this, I don't know, this charm that I think speaks to a lot of the way that house music and techno were first made, when artists didn't have the means to overproduce, overcook their songs. A lot of great house songs are made on a tape recorder where you just had to click record and that's what you got. I think another analogy would be like a beautiful photo that's like a Polaroid photo that's just like snap, here you go, versus something that is like maybe photoshopped and edited into perfection but doesn't feel as authentic or as real. Not to say that great songs can't be made the other way, but I think if you are making music and you find yourself in a place where you are feeling so much pressure for your song to need to be perfect, if you feel pressure that your song needs to be the most refined embodiment of your art, and it's taking away the fun and you're not finishing anything, that's where I think this reminder that it can be a 30-minute Polaroid photo and just be like, this is me. And I think for a lot of people, the reason that's so difficult is because it can be so vulnerable, right? You can feel, it's like with the photo analogy, I think is a really good one because, sometimes like a very candid, film or Polaroid photo, can be scary compared to like the most edited, photoshopped image of yourself that like, addresses insecurities or whatnot. And I think with music, I think authenticity is something that really cuts deep. And I think that's a really good segue for what I want to show today, which is I'll show a little bit of a breakdown of my song Ballz, the original version that came out, talk about it, show what this is a song that's been played at clubs and festivals around the world. Came out about a year ago, and when it was released, I feel like a lot more DJs in Europe were playing it, like some of the really cool clubs and festivals out there. And then more recently, John Summit has been playing it and been playing it at Space and all these big festivals and stuff like that. And it's so funny because this song is not too different to the challenge that all of you did in the past 24 hours. I guess one last thing before I move on. I guess, you know, this idea of, you know, facing perfectionism, facing self-judgment. Can you comment in the chat how you're doing with it? You know, is this something that's showing up for you? Are you feeling a lot of judgment? What is your experience making music these days? Are you having a lot of fun normally? Are you normally being hard on yourself, not finishing anything? I just want to kind of check in with how people are doing. And if there's anything that you feel like is a problem when you're making music, you know, are you not finishing your songs? Are you not enjoying the songs that you're finishing? Do you think your songs aren't good enough? This or that. Feel free to take a second, and I'll try my best to read as many as I can. Constant struggle. I'm still learning from it. Own worst critic. More being hard on myself. Pushing through. I've been really thinking about what you say and being kind to myself. Lex, let's go. I'm having fun, but imposter syndrome is horrible. I tend to be hard on myself. I struggle with this so much with creating art. I'm my hardest critic. I struggle with making music, mostly with adding my own vocals. Ugh, dude, John, I totally feel you. Putting your voice on the song, so vulnerable. And it's so interesting because your voice is one of the most unique and uncopyable things that you can use in making music, like for every single person. And I'm a huge fan of it. So I'll definitely speak to that. Donald, it stops being fun in the mixing stage. Good to know. I have a funny story about this song Ballz regarding the mix. Long story short, I made it with another producer named Nikki Nair, who's amazing. And he wanted to remix the whole song, not like remix it, but do the mixing through a crazy like hardware setup that he has. And he spent like 5 hours trying to do it. And then he was like, dude, can we actually just use your version? So it's something everyone grapples with. Dan, mixed bag. When I'm going to finish a track, I usually know it in the first 30 minutes. Cool. I can be pretty rough with my standards. It's been a big obstacle for me to release. Ross, rid yourself of any expectations of performance. Ian, I run into my own self-criticism when I'm working on songs for more than a few days. Feel that. Taylor, comes in waves. Kendall, sobriety helps me stay focused, take care of myself, and be my own biggest fan. Love that. Devin, this helped me though. Struggling balancing it with day-to-day life. It took me a while to get good enough to where I felt comfortable sharing my art. I'm glad it's there, Matt. Let's see, Slarson. Often not starting because it feels like a lot of investment to even begin. Who relates to that feeling of like, fuck, I don't even want to open Ableton, right? You know, it's so, that resistance that we can feel. It's so real. And I think that's one of my favorite things about like these types of silly challenges where it's like, look, you know, doing a 909 challenge doesn't need to be the full embodiment of who you are as an artist because it's just a fun challenge. And, you know, I think that can make everything so much easier to just start. And then you might end up with something you actually really like. This workshop last year was the start of ditching the self-judgment. It is possible when you just focus on enjoying the process and with community. Adam, I could not agree more. Because I feel like often, you know, sure, there are times where you might know one person or a few people who are negative around you, but I think so often the real source of your judgment and self-criticism when you're working on a song is often internal, right? You know, it's not often, you know, I feel like sure, you know, maybe you show it to a friend who doesn't like it or something like that. But I think so often we can be by ourselves and feeling all of these things when we don't need to. And I feel like being surrounded by great people who can fire you up and affirm you when you are actually doing something great is so valuable. To get out of that bubble, that negative echo chamber that we can experience when we're just by ourselves. Andrew, just having fun with no expectations and not taking anything to heart from opinions. Love that. You know, and one more thing that I want to say about judgment from other people. When it comes to taking, showing your music to other people, I feel like, sometimes people can say nice things, sometimes people can say not so nice things. And here is the framework that I use as best as possible and that I recommend for everyone. If you share your music with someone, if they respond critically or negatively, you must always, always take what they say with a grain of salt. They always, always, always could be wrong, and it doesn't matter who they are. They could be a huge DJ. They could be a record label. They could be your favorite artist. They could be your best friend, your significant other. If they say something critical and judgmental, always take it with a grain of salt, because here's so many different examples of why this is important. But for one, maybe you sent them a dubstep song and they don't like dubstep. Right? Maybe you sent them a dubstep song and it's 7 a.m. and they haven't eaten and they haven't had their coffee yet and they're in a cranky mood and they don't want to hear that kind of music in that moment, versus if you'd sent the same song to them at 11 p.m. on a Friday night, they'd be like energized and excited and might have a completely different reaction to the same exact song. And I feel like, and just when it comes to not liking music, there's no objectivity whatsoever. Some people say, like, my favorite example is like, some people say the Beatles are the best artist and band of all time, and other people don't like the Beatles. Give me thumbs up on how you feel about the Beatles, people. Thumbs up if you like them, thumbs down if you don't like them. Sideways, okay, some sideways, some, it's like no one can unanimously agree. And if we went through artists and styles, there would be so much mixed opinion. And it's like, okay, word, I'm not going to send my Beatles remix to the person who is like, I hate the Beatles. Right? And sometimes we can send a song to someone and not realize that it's not meant for them, and that's okay. When it comes to receiving positive feedback, you should 100% always take it to heart. Because, and it doesn't matter if that person is, a DJ or someone who doesn't even like dance music. I think one of my most formative experiences in college, when I started releasing music and kind of beginning my career, I did this, releasing on all these labels and beginning to tour from my college dorm room. And what was so interesting about making music in that environment is if I was making something and maybe people were just walking on past my room, but then maybe something, I was getting closer to finishing a song and some random person might stick their head in and be like, what is this? And I'd be like, oh, it's something I'm working on. They'd be like, cool. Maybe that person doesn't even like house music or dance music, but that validation is like, oh, wow, this random person actually liked what I did. I'm going to keep on working on this. I posted like a little video of a situation like this a few months ago where I was working on this song and staying up really, really late. It might have been till like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I was battling against the song and my own self-judgment on it. And by the end of it, I was like, this song sucks. I fell victim to all of the same things that I'm, speaking about. And part of it was it just got super late and I was being too hard on myself and just, sometimes you just got to take a break. But was really not into it. And the next morning I showed it to my girlfriend and she was like, I like this. And I was like, you're just saying that to be nice. So I was still like feeling the negativity and disqualifying her kind words. And she was pretty insistent. And so she was like, no, I actually like it a lot. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll take this to heart and I'll put it on my USB. And I think it might've been the next day. She had some friends who were DJing at the Creek in Boulder. And I decided to play the song and a couple of people there were like, this is cool. And I was like, while DJing it, I was like, you know what? this actually feels fine. This is good enough. I'm going to keep on playing it. And I ended up not making any changes to the song and ultimately decided to release it. And the response has been awesome. And you know, it's just, you might be the last person to realize how good your song is. And then one last little anecdote that I'll share, the opposite experience. So a few years back, I don't know if some people might not know this, but I have done tours as like a full band, where I'd have guitar player, drummer, synth player, that sort of stuff. And we had just finished a long band practice, and I decided to show the guys in the group on the drive home a song that I'd been working on that was called "I'm Shy When I'm Around You." And I was like super vulnerable. I felt super vulnerable, but I was like, hey guys, I'll show you this. I played it for them, and they were all like, and it's not that they even said that the song wasn't good, but they just like didn't give me any sort of like affirmation or validation. And they were obviously really tired and had been listening to music like all night. But that moment like really deflated my confidence in the song, and it stayed kind of on my hard drive for maybe 5 months, maybe half a year. And it was not until that summer I was playing Electric Forest, and we were in this like beautiful like forest stage in the middle of all these trees, and it made me think of this song, which has kind of a whimsical, magical feeling. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try playing this song and just see how it goes. I'll play it like towards the end of my set after I've played some bangers and just give it a try. And I played it, and the response was crazy, and a bunch of people were messaging me being, what was this song? And I was like, no way. I thought my confidence in the song had totally been demolished by the lack of excitement from my friends, and it had kept it on my hard drive unheard for months. And when I played it and ultimately released it, it became a song that you know, a lot of people ended up enjoying. And you know, it was just so vulnerable and so scary the whole time. And you know, it's that fear that comes into sharing what you're working on. It's something that doesn't go away as you get more successful or get bigger opportunities. It is a lifelong aspect of creating that we have to grapple with, this insecurity, the self-judgment. And I feel like it's not like something that you're like, oh, I'm no longer insecure or vulnerable about showing my music. It's something that I feel like it's kind of like going to the gym. You can be exercising and you might get stronger, but then the weights get heavier, and then you need to like work out more. Or you go to the gym and you get strong, but then you stop, and then you haven't gone to the gym for a while, and those, you know, 10-pound weights are looking pretty big now, if you're me. So that is definitely my experience when it comes to just that vulnerability. And I think the more we can face it head on at every level, from the beginning of our journeys on, it's just a skill that we never need to stop. So on that note, I feel like this is a good opportunity to show you guys a little bit of a demonstration of the song that I finished, Ballz. Let me open up the project. Here's the OG Ballz. And here, just for fun, I'll open up Minimeter for people to like follow along. Let's see. I just need to open it like that, and then I think we should be nearly good to go. Awesome. So this is Ballz. I'm going to try to show this real quick, and then move on to some Q&A, and then we'll do breakout rooms. All right, so guys, here, boom. Instead of the Roland 909, I use the 808. And the only thing that I did on this sort of track to make the 808 feel a little different was using a plugin in Ableton called Saturator, which makes it more distorted. And what's funny is when I started this track, the saturator, there's two of them. One is completely off, and the other, the dry wet, is set to 0, meaning it's not doing anything. So if we listen, that dinky little drum machine, the 808, which is that, can sound huge sometimes, but
I don't think you have audio, Justin.
oh, thank you so much. Ah, dude, there's times where I'll be talking for hours and not realize that. Okay, now there we go. Thank you. Awesome. So that's the Roland 808. This is the preset from Ableton 9. It's a little different from the one from Ableton 11, but I'll send it to you. I'll call it the JJ 808. I prefer it. But all I did was that. Let's see if there's there's a little bit of processing on this group, some saturation, some distortion, but even if we turn it off, not a huge difference. Makes it a little louder, but not really changing the character of the song until we kind of move further. But for 90% of the song, the only elements are this 808 and, like yesterday, this really magnificent recording.
Balls.
And let's listen.
Balls. Balls.
All right, so one of the things that I do here, this, yesterday I talked about mid-range ear fatigue, where if there's too much happening in the mids, it might get annoying. And so one of my favorite ways to deal with this is using volume. And so I love doing stuff like this. I essentially, for producers who are more advanced, I did the same thing as like side chaining, but withdrawing the volume manually. So all that's happening is when this vocal plays,
Balls.
I lower the volume of the fast vocal and then bring it back up over time. So it's like balls, ba 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 balls, ba 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 ba, and kind of ramps up. You can hear that by itself.
Balls.
All right, so pretty straightforward. Let's talk a little bit about the drum programming, because I'm just curious. Give me a thumb. Is anyone here interested in breaks, drum and bass, UKG, any of those styles? Yes, some emphatic thumbs up. Let's go. Awesome. So super interesting. Over the past couple of years, I've actually released a lot of different styles of broken beat music, from electro, booty bass, drum and bass, UKG, dubstep. And for a lot of these styles of music, a lot of the patterns are much more similar than you might initially think. So for most broken beat styles of music, I'm going to show you the basic patterns that help get that feel. And so just like in techno, you put the kick on every beat, house, you put the kick on every beat. There are sort of basic starting points for these other styles of music, and I'll show you what there's really two options for electro, drum and bass, UKG. There could be some flexibility, but this is like a really good starting point. You begin with this pattern with the clap on 2 and 4 and the kick on the first beat. Sounds like this. And from this point, there are two basic options that you can start with. The first is to put the second kick drum here between beats 2 and 3. The other, I'll mute this, is to put it here halfway between beats 3 and 4. And it's interesting. So for the classic drum and bass beat, if we speed this up to 170, this pattern works as well. If we were making UKG, both of these options would be great. We would just have shuffle on the hi-hats. We might be using different sounds besides the 808, but it is seriously as simple as this. But I feel like often UKG or breakbeat type tracks, if they just have the one kick, it might feel like something's missing. And what's interesting is, let's say you do one of these, there's still so much room for having fun and experimentation. I'm just going to show that, you can duplicate, add an extra kick here in a different location. Let's listen to that. And so that is the basic starting point. I want to keep on going on what I did for this track. But one of the next most kind of like basic things, once you have your kick clap pattern, which is the best place to start, is with hi-hats. You don't have to do it in this order, but one of my favorite hi-hat patterns for this type of music, this is like a booty bass electro kind of beat, is just the straight eighth notes. Da, 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 da. If we turn on the eighth note grid, that's what it is, just this on the hi-hat. And this is the closed hi-hat, sounds like this. You can see on Ballz, for the last measure, I put an extra kick as like a variation. And then the next thing that I did was I moved some of the hi-hat samples from closed to open. Whoops, so that sounds, let me just play that. I moved these guys from here up here. And part of why I think this works is because it sort of fills up the space where there's no kick drums and kind of does a little call and response within the drum groove. Let's listen. Super simple, but super effective. The last things that I did, I added some toms. And what's really good to note about the toms, I'll simplify this so you can see it more easily. Each kick and each tom has its own place, and they kind of bounce off of each other in a way where you can appreciate each sound. There's not one moment where they double up on each other. There's none of this. Give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Pretty straightforward, right? Let's listen. Everything having its own space. And I think part of why this feels so good right off the bat, you hear it with the clap. We've built this really strong foundation with just this. And now we're just filling in those spaces between the kicks. We're just filling open space. And I think that's like one of my favorite things about these challenges, the 808 challenge, the 909 challenge. You're making almost a full song in just one MIDI region. And when you do that, you have the opportunity to see where are the open spaces in your idea. When you make a song that has like all these different layers, it can just be harder visually to see where are the open spaces. And I think this is like one of the biggest advantages on a compositional level. You can see where the open spaces are and where you have room to add new ideas. And I think this right here is almost all of the drum pattern. Obviously add Ballz.
Ballz.
Okay. And then for this breakdown goes off in the club, and all I do is I literally just solo the Ballz vocal for like 8 bars. Listen, let's see, there might be some volume automation. No, there's literally like no volume automation. Nearly nothing is happening at this point, and it just creates so much suspense. And it's so funny. This is an example of like the Polaroid photo. I could have added effects. I could have gone crazy with it, but instead I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna loop Ballz. It's so lazy. noisy. And I think that's kind of why I think it works, because it's like it's so dumb and silly and confident in a way, you know, where it's like, dude, there's no sweeps, there's no delay automation, reverbs, filter automation, you know, pitch shifting. It's just ba 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 balls. Nikki Nair helped me out with this drum fill. It's so awesome. And it's pretty simple. Here's what it looks like. I think one rhythm that I'm a huge fan of that he used for this fill. I'm a big fan of rhythms that do this sort of thing, where it is, you have a note, 2 empty spaces. I'm going to just make them gray like this, and then you duplicate. So you get this, it's essentially, if you were going to describe it in music theory, it is 3/16 notes or a dotted 8th note. But when you have this rhythm, things just feel really, really awesome. I'm gonna show you guys what it sounds like with just like a cowbell. So here's what it sounds like with a cowbell, and I'll put a kick drum too, so you can just hear what this rhythm sounds like. This rhythm is the foundation for a lot of like reggaeton and like Afro-Cuban music. If we switch it to a snare, this is kind of like a reggaeton beat. I'm changing it a little bit for the second half, but super fun, super satisfying. So that rhythm is what's giving this drum roll a super satisfying feeling here. It's note, empty, empty, note, empty, empty, note, empty, empty, note.
Balls.
Okay, and then as we move into this section, we're adding a little bit more, first off, distortion. You can hear the difference with like the let's see, this saturator is still off, but maybe there's some automation. Yeah, maybe the overdrive is now turned up a little bit, it's just crunchier. But yeah, like most of these plugins, the limiter might help a little bit, but it's really just this overdrive. One plugin that's making it clean versus distorted and dirty. One plugin that really matters for that. Let's look at the notes. So you can see more filling in open spaces. The rim shot here. I guess, well, you know, I guess that plays with the kick, but yeah, and you know, I guess in analyzing it, I think when you're working on a song, I guess that's one of the levers that you have to play with. How much stuff happens at different times versus how much stuff happens together. And I think great songs have a balance between both. You know, maybe early on, you want to fill open spaces, but as you layer more ideas, you might want to play with some sounds working in unison. And so I think that's what this loop shows a good example of. We have a 30-second note fill with the hi-hats, kind of like a trap idea right there, 30-second notes, 1, 2, and then back to 16th notes. That plays with the kick. That's like a very classic like hip hop thing. And then a couple rim shots here, which I think helps kind of keep the mid-range developing. Let's listen.
Balls.
Okay, let's analyze this. Little drum fill. Same motif of like this note here, instead of note space space, it's note note space, note note space, note note space. So once again, it's that same 3/16 notes, kind of like repetition. Cowbell, first time using the cowbell in the whole song. We're like a minute in, and now, bam, the cowbell. Holy shit, what a crazy new sound. And it's just funny because, you know, we're still just using the 808 and the Ballz vocal, but you can introduce, you can really like use these drum machines in a very satisfying way by holding back different sounds and then, you know, introducing them as you get further into your track. Another thing happens here that's really fun. We do what I would call a dropout, but on beat one. I love doing stuff like this. So what we do is we cut the drums when the Ballz vocal plays at this point. So no drums, just balls. Super satisfying. Love doing stuff like that. It's just like a fun way to keep people off guard. Very big for like UKG to do things like that. Another thing we did was we pitched the vocal down to make it feel like it was changing. Here's normal. And it's just pitch. One of the things that we did, you can, if you click this button on an audio clip, you can automate the pitch shifting. This is like a super fun thing to do. You can go crazy with it. Let's do something wild. So really fun thing to mess with. We kept it pretty simple. Just pitch the whole thing down and then a little bit of a bend at the very end. Let's keep on listening. And this idea of changing the pitch of the balls. I think this is actually a super useful moment in regards to this idea of like the mid-range ear fatigue. If you are hammering someone with mid-range over and over again, it can be annoying. But another factor could be doing the same thing over and over again at the same pitch, the same rhythm, the same speed. I think of it like a conversation. If you're having a conversation with someone and they keep on yelling at you the whole time, you're at a certain point gonna tune it out. But if they're yelling at you and they're like, fuck you, and then they whisper, I hate you. You know, like that contrast, it's gonna hit really hard. Or like if a teacher's like, I'm so disappointed. You're like, oh shit, that fucking hurts. Versus if the teacher's like just yelling the whole time, you just like at a certain point just tune it all out. And I think when it comes to mid-range ideas, there's a couple tools in our tool belt for addressing this to keep it feeling fresh. Yesterday, the big tool that I used was the pacing. I went from balls, long pause, to then balls, shorter pause. So that change in frequency or amount of space can be one tool. Pitch can be another tool, and that's what I used here. I feel like it helps make it feel like you're not being bashed in the ear with the same thing over again, even though the rhythm and the sound are staying the same. Okay, and another thing that I did here that's kind of cool to note, the pitch bend is slightly different between this one. I'll make it blue. The pitch bend starts here, and this one, which I'll make yellow, starts a little bit earlier and might go slightly lower. And what's cool about it is these are then copied, and I think this kind of creates a nice variation. And once I made this, you know how yesterday I copied and pasted a lot of stuff in my track? I then went on to copy and paste a lot of stuff here, and essentially like the last, you know, the end of the song is the same copy. It's purple, then blue, yellow, purple, blue, yellow, etc. All right, so that's that. So here, what's happening, this is the same idea of using the same mid-range sound in a different way so that it doesn't feel fatiguing. So this time, it's the original pitch, but with a different rhythm. And it's a little bit more sophisticated. Let's see. So we put it in simpler, or I guess there's a sampler. Really easy to do something like this for people who are new to Ableton. If you open, there's two kinds of tracks. There's MIDI tracks, audio tracks. Audio tracks are sounds that are recorded either with your microphone or samples, pre-existing music. And the MIDI tracks are sounds that can be triggered with the squares, like the drum machine. So all of you have probably experimented a little bit with both of these to a certain degree. And so what you can do, you can just drag any audio in here, and then you can use even your MIDI keyboard to do more complex patterns. And that is what we did. I'll just show like an example of me using this. And this is like such a fun way to come up with new ideas. Let me see. Let's see. C. I forget. C3. Okay. So I just need to do one little thing. You can do that. Okay. But yeah, so you can do all sorts of fancy ideas. You can move the notes around to different pitches if you want to. You know, let's listen. Cool. Anyways, that's what I did there essentially. And while I'm doing that, I'm using this Ballz and have it at a low pitch, then a slightly higher pitch here. All right, maybe it's just going down. It's actually low, 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 down. So a couple things that we're doing here, just like yesterday, adding more notes to the drum patterns to make the energy feel like it's building upwards. The main energy build is coming from the claps, probably. Just to show you guys, here's the claps by themselves. Starts there, then it goes faster. And then we switch to the 808 snare drum. We did this with triplets. You can right click to turn the triplet grid on. And while we did it, we used hold on, I have to move zoom out of my way. There we go. The snare with the pitch automation. Very much like a trap music type of thing. So that's where like the build energy comes from rhythmically, but we do one other thing. So we have this tom high 808, and we did something pretty weird with it. Where is this happening? Okay, so if you notice, the saturation distortion is going up, and it makes this tom begin to sound like a synth. So just one knob of automation, but what's cool about this is it's applied to the rest of the drum kit, so the claps and hats are getting more distorted also. And just note, this rhythm of the tom, once again, it's the same rhythm that I've been highlighting on all the fills. This note, space, space, note, space, space, note, space, space. And I think this is like another really good teaching moment. If there's an idea that's working in your song, feel free to use it in all sorts of different ways. You know, I think this is like another thing that separates overcomplicated songs with songs that feel simple. Often, overcomplicated songs sound overcomplicated because the artist keeps on dragging completely new ideas instead of remixing ideas that are already there. So when I showed this song, like, you know, we're now a few minutes into the track, you can think of all the ways that I've remixed the Ballz vocal, right? You can think about the way that I've recycled this like idea of the 3/16 notes in different ways. Does that make sense to people? You know, I feel like it's this idea is one that's been around in music for a very long time, of just when you have a small amount of musical material, how much can you do with it and how creative you can be with it becomes a really fun challenge, and it helps you end up with songs that are really simple but satisfying. And because of this, you know, it's like for me in this song, mixing it became really easy because I didn't need 5 different synths. I mostly just used my vocals going like balls. So makes the mix down process easier as well. All right, let's keep it going. We're pretty much done with the 808 stuff. Everything you just heard, we ultimately just do again at the end of the song, but I do have this very silly kind of like trap bass music section.
Balls.
And so this, I feel like the big takeaway is like having fun. Because I literally was with Nikki and we were together, and I'm a big fan of this website called freesound.org. It's so good. I think it's more fun than Splice, because you can just the sounds are just so random, and often they're really shitty and janky, but in a way that's super inspiring. So I was like, okay, the song's called Ballz. What can we do with that? And so I went to freesound.org and we downloaded all these like very silly sound effects. We didn't end up using all of them. It's just like boings and stuff. Like that doink made me laugh. And it was just so fun. And then we went to one of those like voice generators and then had
Balls.
put like gun sound effects.
Balls.
At the end of the song, some of you might have heard this part.
Suck.
Right.
Suck my balls.
And it's literally like we're just making each other laugh, like having so much fun. It was so magical. And I feel like that energy comes through in the song. I'll just show briefly what other production is happening. So the 808 is still very much the main sound. Here's what the drum programming looks like. A lot of it is muted. More like toms to fill open space. And I feel like with a lot of bass music, one piece of advice is I think you essentially want your song to feel really good with just a kick and a clap. If you feel like you need a lot of hi-hats and percussion to carry the beat for a dubstep or bass song, you might need to like double check that everything else is working. So we added some extra kick layers to make it more heavy. And I just searched, I was like, for some reason, I imagine a triangle. And so I just searched in stock Ableton sounds, or maybe it was just, I just searched triangle and I found this sample. I think this is the sample that really makes the clap hit hard. And I did put delay with a very short delay time to make it like a buzzy delay and some reverb. Here's no effects. Doesn't really cut through as much, but adding some stuff helps because we're making it a little longer, so it kind of lasts longer than the clap and snare that are playing with it. What else is happening? What's this? I forget. Oh yeah, that's the sound effect. And then for the low end, there is a call and response between the 808 kick, which plays, you can hear it better here, that bong. And I put the 808 into another track with some saturation and auto filter. This is like what gives like a more classic dubstep feel. And do dubstep wobbles, my favorite way to make them. Super simple. Get an 808, add distortion, sounds like this. Okay, Here, turn the attack off so you can hear what it sounds like. Added auto filter to make it more of a wub. And here's some motion, and then add the attack as well to give a little bit more of a whomp. The compression, this is like another thing that's good for a lot of broken beat music. Really, really important for your kick and clap to shine through fully. Oh, my mini meters is gone. Whoops. When you're making this type of music, in house music or techno, you want the kick to kind of be big and chunky. With this type of stuff, you want the kick and clap. So see how both the kick drums and the claps are hitting that full view? That's what I want to see when I'm making UKG, drum and bass, breakbeat stuff, dubstep. Because there's not kicks on every beat, the claps sort of hold equal importance to the kicks in these styles. And to do that, if you have like a bass line or something like that, which is what this kick is, I often do compression, side chaining on both the kicks and the claps. And you can see here, if I turn this off, look at my screen. Okay, like right here. Do you guys see this little transient? Give me a thumbs up if you can see that. That is my clap being buried in the redness of the kick. I'm going to contrast that with this. Look at this difference. I'm going to turn it off and show you again. Here's no compression. Here's with compression. Do you guys see that difference? Look how visible it is, right? The bass over there is bearing the clap. Here, the compressor is saying, hey, bass, get out of the way. Let's make that clap really big. And I copy and paste. So I have a compressor for the kick and a compressor for the clap. A little bit more complicated. I'm sure we can dive deeper if needed, but I hope that helps. And once that's done, the rest of this section is just playing with different tom fills, different 808 fills, and adding more hi-hats as we get deeper into this section.
Balls.
And this is a section where we did go kind of a little bit more slow to try and make different like drum fills. Like we did, here's some very fast hi-hats that I believe have some automation. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. This is a drum and bass technique to have a bunch of 30-second notes or a fast drum roll, but then volume ramp up. So it's like, it kind of like gets louder. And I guess I need to show what's happening with the balls. So we're playing with the simpler. There's some pitch bend stuff happening, and we're just playing with some notes high, some notes low. One of these layers is really distorted. And that's pretty much from the saturator, I think. That is from a pitch bend, but with distortion. And then once we get through that, we're done. And this breakdown is nearly identical to the first one. The only difference is the first one has a drum fill here. The second one doesn't have the drum fill, and just says balls before the drum.
Balls.
I guess there's a shorter drum fill, I should say. The first one was here, the second one was here. So we changed, one or two little things to make it feel like a different section. And then we're home free. This is all copied and pasted with the exception of the Suck My Balls vocal. And then the mastering is a tiny bit of EQ to make the low end a tiny bit fatter, and then a limiter. And that's literally it. Yeah, so Ballz, that is it. Was any of that helpful? Awesome. Just because I know I hit you guys a lot. Can you type in the chat what's one takeaway that you're going to take from that production breakdown? Could be, could be specific about technical stuff, or it could be I want to have fun and make more Ballz tracks, whatever. Let's see. Okay, get silly with it. The drum beat style, experiment, pitching vocals with the keyboard interface, having fun for sure. Keep it playful. Simplify my tracks. You're a baller. Thanks. Thanks, Travis. More Ballz. Ear fatigue trick is super helpful. Fuck yeah. More Ballz. Remixing the main song indie instead of adding too many elements. Dude, Ryan, yes, that is so huge. So huge. I think so often we can be working on a song and forget to look backwards. We can forget to look at the ideas that we should just copy and paste completely. We forget to look at the ideas that we should mess with and fuck with. Diego, keeping the rhythm the same but adding variety by changing the vocal spacing and pitch. Simple sound design and just a saturator or filter. Seriously. Joey, have fun with your ideas before moving to the next thing. Less is more. Call and response. Side chaining the kick and clap. Keeping it fun. Having fun with it. How much variety can you create with simple tweaks of the same element? Awesome. Layering up for fatter sounds. Mid-range fatigue and remix recycle ideas. Sydney, recycling sounds and automation can make all the difference. Ross, pitch, fading, and arrangement of vocals. Remix ideas already in the track, making way more sense of automation basics. Yes, dude, that's huge. So easy to do automation on all of these different parameters and nothing makes a difference. So finding a small number of knobs to automate that actually change the vibe of the song is huge. Drucifer, using what you already have to expand the progression, overdrive in the drum beat style. Less is more. The big infinite sidechain on the clap cut, top cut through. I liked how many variations you were able to make with both the lead vocal and drum patterns. Oren, yes. And dude, these concepts that you can discover and refine with just an 808 or just a 909, you can, or just a Ballz vocal, you can apply it to any song, any sound in your song. And I think this is why these challenges are like fucking sharpening the shit out of your production skills, because when you have unlimited tracks in your project and unlimited sounds, you can often neglect to get good at recycling ideas because you just keep on dragging in new sounds. And then you end up with an overcomplicated song and you don't know what to do for that last drop because you've literally done everything. Versus recycling shit that's already there. And I think it's when things get complicated, I think we can even forget what's even in our song, So I think just keeping it simple, being able to see everything in your project, that's huge for me. Let me keep on reading. I hope that, is this helpful, by the way, me reading people's takeaways? Okay, cool. Mute all the non-essentials and make sure your foundation is solid. It's always cool to see people's projects. I liked the 808 web. Fuck yeah. Less is more and automation on vocals makes it interesting. Okay, awesome. Sweet. Thank you all so much for kind of listening and kind of typing out your takeaways. I feel like that's super, super helpful. And my hope is just that, you can walk away from this not being overwhelmed. Does anyone feel a little less overwhelmed than they did 24 hours ago? Okay, fuck yeah. That is my biggest hope. And if time ever passes and you get back to feeling overwhelmed, you can do one of these challenges. And it's like buying yourself a $10,000 studio. All right, so I want to shift gears and do some open Q&A and then do the breakout rooms. But before we do, also I wanted to give a little shout out. So here, I think where to begin? Um with doing stuff like this, my goal is to keep on doing more workshops, more lectures. I'm curious, are there any special guests that would be fun for me to get in the mix? Like we had Justin Martin over the summer, my homie Option 4, Nikki Nair. Comment who would be fun. John Summit. We actually did one with Nikki Nair a few years ago, and I think it might be time to get him back in the mix. DJ ADHD. Oh, that'd be so awesome. Dude, ADHD is like him and Chloe Robinson are making like so many amazing songs with just a 909. They're like labeled pretty weird. Their music is like it's like the 909 challenge done in such incredible ways. Claude, excuse me, that'd be awesome. LPGOB, Danny Goliger, yes. John Summit, Nikki Nair, YU Cutie. Oh, dude, they're so sick. 808s or 909s for Tech House. Okay, Nala, Kush Jones, love him. Mary Droppins, yes. More John Summit, Chloe / ADHD. Yes, this is so awesome because I feel like this will be very good leverage. Tiesto, let's go. I would love to get Tiesto in the mix. J Mart, Vanessa again. Dude, I'm sure she would be down. Love Nikki, Danny, Kenny Beats, that'd be cool. Knock 2, Sammy Vergie, Miha would be fun. Oh, she's awesome. Cats and Dogs. Okay, sick. Subfocus, Nala, Born Dirty, Ray Cola, they're awesome. Tiga, Claude, Scream. Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Dom Dalla, Mochak. Okay, sweet. Nia Archives, West End, Artelon. This is actually really helpful. Claire. Oh, dude. I don't know how to say his name properly, but dude, all that hard groove techno stuff I've been so into. Maybe a US based techno artist, or I see maybe we're thinking Sarah Landry, Sarah Landers. But yeah, that'd be sick. West End, Desert Hearts. Okay, cool. Bicep. This is really, really awesome. Swisha, Fred again would be sick. Sweely, he's so dope. All right, cool. Thank you guys for commenting. So my hope is to keep on doing more free lectures, get more artists, and I think for every single person here, my biggest hope for each and every one of you is that you keep making music, whether you have been doing it for a while or whether you're just starting. And I hope that you all also take time to connect with each other as best as possible. We're going to have time for that in a more intimate setting at the very end with the breakout rooms. And just keep on creating. And give me a thumbs up if you're feeling inspired to do that. Fuck yeah. Awesome. For anyone who's like, dude, I want to keep on doing stuff with me, I am launching my next boot camp for anyone who wants to really dive deep in a pretty intense way. And I just want to say, I feel like this type of boot camp experience, it's like not necessarily that everyone here needs to do it, because it's for people who really want to like hunker down this winter and like make some songs and nerd out. And I think it's one of my favorite things that I do every year, where I really put the pause on touring, with the exception of a couple New Year's gigs. Really hunker down. We do 4 weeks of Ableton production stuff, and then 2 weeks of music industry oriented things like sending demos. And every year we've put together a compilation of songs made in the class, and that's something we discuss as well in those last 2 weeks. But the boot camp, my favorite thing about it is, just like this 909 weekend, all skill levels are welcome, from beginners to pros. And sometimes the beginners can have an advantage starting from a blank slate, versus if you are someone who's been doing this a while and you are not willing to try new approaches, that can be a little bit more challenging. But the only things that I really look for people to be a good fit are, you have the time to make some music over the next few weeks. you're really open to trying new approaches, just like the 909 challenge. And I have the most fun with people who are open to exploring new styles of music, because I feel like different genres of dance music have different things to offer us. And by learning things from different styles, we can ultimately end up speeding up our progress in some ways and discovering a more unique sound. Because I think what makes an artist really unique is not by defining yourself as just one thing, but rather being open to a wide array of different types of musical inspiration and seeing how you put it together in your own way. And some people are like, no, I have my brand figured out. I want to just make techno. That's it. I feel like for me, I love working with people who are like, I'm down to make drum and bass. Let's give it a shot. I've never done that before. I'm down to make, hard groove techno. I'm down to make a disco edit. I think there's so much you can learn from each of these things. And that's how I like to work. And it's definitely, like it's crazy. That dude, Rodney Dinkles, the homie Clay, who I posted a video of, he had never made music before, downloaded the free trial of Ableton for this class, and then made, I think, 70 songs in 4 weeks of production. And ended up signing a dozen songs over the following year, got a song signed to Dirty Bird. I've had people get 20 songs signed that they made in 4 weeks, like crazy shit. It's very, very fun. And we're just out there grinding on music. It's one of my favorite things. So if anyone here is interested, you can apply. And if we need to hop on a chat to talk about anything, that's something I'm super happy to do. And yeah, for anyone who is like, dude, I'm overwhelmed with music stuff, I'm going to go take a break from it for the next 4 months, that is awesome as well. There's zero pressure. And I'm here to hang as long as possible for Q&A, and then we'll switch out to breakout rooms. And we will do more lectures like this as well. I'm going to try and see if I can get a dope special guest in the next few weeks. I have some inspiration thanks to you guys. So for every single person here, just know this is not farewell. This is not the end. And seriously, getting over 100 new songs that were literally made in the last 24 hours, like, is the fucking coolest thing in the world to me, that people are creating music, willing to share it with me. And I just want more of that energy. I feel like, seriously, I think what we're all doing here, trying to create music, it sounds cheesy, but I do think this is the type of stuff that can make the world a better, happier place. Because each of us, to do this thing of make music, we have to confront our self-judgment, our self-criticism, potentially the judgment of others, and we have to be really vulnerable and courageous and ultimately really positive to be able to be like, fuck it, I'm going to share this song and make this thing. And I just think the more of energy we have of that, the better, whether it's on the dance floor or just, like in our normal lives. So, give me a thumbs up if you're down to just keep this positivity going. Okay, fuck yeah. Really, really appreciate it. And yeah, let's just keep on having fun. So that is everything I wanted to sort of mention. Let's do a little bit of Q&A and then some breakout rooms. Let's see. And yeah, I think, why don't we do 20 minutes of Q&A, then breakout rooms, and then maybe a little bit more Q&A if we still have some energy. Does that sound cool with everyone as a little plan? Sweet. So for this Q&A, if anyone also needs a little bit of a break to like stand up, stretch, go for it, because we'll do the breakout rooms at the top of the hour. And if you have a question, why don't you raise your hand electronically and I'll start calling out on people.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah, what's up, Kev?
Somebody was asking what the breakout rooms will be.
Oh, yeah. So I will, great question. Breakout rooms. So I will kind of create them.
No, like the format.
Oh, the
Like, what is
format.
it about?
True. Great. Thank you for clarifying. So the format that I'd like to try for these breakout rooms is to just go around, introduce yourself, share the song that you made if you have a song that you'd like to share, and share some positivity on other people's songs and just encourage each other and go around playing your songs. Does that make sense to people? Okay, cool. Awesome. Sweet.
Oh, and it's also hosted by people who have been in Justin's class, so we can like also answer some questions as people who have done the classes.
Sweet, dude, 100%. And I think, let's see, in terms of the breakout rooms, it's possible that there might to keep I'm not sure exactly how things will shake out, but we'll figure out what they're going to look like when it comes to it. I think we'll be able to have like around 10 people, maybe a little less per thing. So I'll figure that out. But Kev, thank you so much for helping clarify. Really appreciate it, dude. All right. So once again, anyone needs a break, stand up, get a breath of fresh air. And until then, raise your hand electronically for questions. And I'm going to start from the right side of my screen. Nicholas, how are you doing, dude?
I'm doing pretty good, man. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. This has been really, really awesome. Definitely helped my confidence in like keeping things simple. A few things during the outside lands at Toyota. I was the DJ at the Toyota stage. Remember that whole thing? When, yeah, you
Dude,
killed
good
it.
to see you. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy because like I don't think everybody was expecting you to go to that stage, and it was just like insane. And I don't know if it was like you dropped some edit. It was like a Taylor Swift song. I don't know. There was something that you dropped that day that was just so sick, and everybody was just going wild. I don't know what it was. But this is my question for you. So I like have very little experience with Ableton, like nothing. And like last night was so hard for me because I'm like, I can't even figure out how to do these basic things. I've used like Logic for a really long time. I've even started using GarageBand, which I almost feel embarrassed to say, but it actually has been so easy to like make things with it because it's just less complicated. But anyways, the point is with your artist workshop, what does it look like from like an Ableton perspective and like learning Ableton? Is like you need to come in with some sort of like baseline foundation, because that's a part for me. I'm like, I don't know how to freaking use Ableton. It's so frustrating. So what does that look like?
100%. So in my experience doing the class, I feel like there is such a range of experience levels in the class. And my sort of blanket statement is like, first off, I love working with people who are blank canvases because it's like, oh, dude, we just get to explore and there's no existing bad habits. It's just like a fresh palette, which I think is really, really cool and exciting. In terms of developing the skills, I do recommend like trying to work through some YouTube tutorials as best you can in advance. But I think the best, I feel like what's really great about sort of the experience is like if you hit a wall, you can obviously like message me on Discord and I can hit you back with an answer. You can ask me questions in class, but I think one of the most powerful things is the community itself, because I feel like just in terms of the people that I feel like, look, if you're open to making a song with just a 909, you got to be a pretty open-minded person. And so I feel like because of that, the class tends to be filled with people who are really open-minded, really just good vibes. And that's kind of what I sort of look for. And I feel like so often I've seen more advanced people even hopping on video calls with people who are newer. And, you ask it like the biggest resource is like, instead of YouTubing a question when you have a problem, you just like drop it in the class chat. And it's like you can probably get an answer in like 5 minutes because everyone is on their computers also working on the challenge in the song. But yeah, I think also when I teach, we have review sessions where I'll ask you to open up your screen and, I'll even control your screen or guide you through clicking on the right buttons and the right key commands to get you unstuck. And I'm just curious just to like check in with you. So can you talk to me about where you got stuck in the past 24 hours, like where you're currently at right now in this moment. I'm just curious.
With like in regards to Ableton,
Yeah.
I just couldn't figure out how to do like just drawing notes in and changing like from like a 16th to 32 or just
Oh.
I mean like the most basic things. And I was like, okay, like this, I can't do this. So I decided to just go into GarageBand and screw with the 909. And it was actually still beneficial. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get anything. But I think it's just the basics. It's so different than what I'm used to that I'm just like, oh God, like how am I gonna learn how to use Ableton like overnight? I was like, I'm just gonna watch, what happens like tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I kind of just got stuck in the beginning, like regrettably, just because I'm like, I don't know how to use Ableton. I'm like,
Dude,
this is boring to me.
Well, yo, dude, first off, there's zero judgment on GarageBand. So like I can't name any art. I think Justice might have made a lot of their early stuff on GarageBand, and it's incredible. Like people use it, and you can use anything to make music. So I'm so glad that you used whatever you wanted to do it. Look, if you wanted to, you could do the whole class in GarageBand, but I would I think what would be really interesting is like, dude, some of the things you mentioned, I feel like I could just show you right now if you want to share your screen and open up Ableton if you have it on your computer. You don't need to, but just want to put that out to you.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, yeah, I can definitely open it up. I think, yeah, let me see.
And maybe what we'll do you have time to hang after the breakout rooms to do this? Like, or are you?
I'm not in a rush, so probably better to do it after. So
amazing.
Yeah,
let's circle back. And I'm just curious, anyone, because I know there's a bunch of people here who are more advanced, but anyone here just download Ableton and kind of in a similar situation as Nicholas, where you're like, oh, dude, some of these basic things, hold up your thumbs so I can see. It's like, dude, Nicholas, you are so not alone on this on this stage. And I feel like getting over this hump is one of my favorite things to see, because on the other side of it, when you start having fun, it's just like, for me, it's the most gratifying thing. And that's for anyone, whether they're in the class or not. Like and that's my goal for today, is like, get as many people as possible over that hump, having fun, making music, because it's just love it so much. So Nick, you down to circle back after the breakout rooms?
Back. Thank you so much. I was just gonna say too, is that like whenever I look at like things online, like I can't, even when I use like Logic and I look up like how to make this sound better, it's an Ableton. And I'm like, damn, there's so much more that you can tweak in Ableton. So I definitely want to get over that hump. So thanks for everything.
Of course. Let's see. So we have 12 minutes for the breakout rooms. Anyone who has their hand raised, are any of you guys in a rush to leave? Because if you are, I'm down to just try to get to your question. Okay, Xavier, I see a slightly wavy hand. Let's start with you.
Yeah, just super simple. Hey, this has been pretty awesome. So anyways, bouncing the track, I tend to find that I DJ and just hobby, right? But if I make, a decent track where I think it's decent, oh, hey, I'm going to bounce it. Let me, put it on my CDJs. The waveform isn't always full capacity. Could you give some tips on maybe just bouncing real quick so that you can get it to play out pretty fast,
Yes. So the main things that I would do is really just one thing. Open up Ableton project, go to your master, and make sure you put the stock limiter, or if you use a different limiter, put a limiter on your master. Make sure the volume of your master fader is set to 0. Play your song, and on the stock limiter, as you're playing it, I like to see around -6, could be closer to -12 for this yellow bar, which is your gain reduction. I don't want to see this, like going closer to -18. I don't want to see this either, where it's like almost nothing. But this one knob, messing around with it until it's kind of in that sweet spot is the main thing to do, and then bounce it. Once you've bounced it, what you've done is you've sort of like mastered your track in a very simple way. And I would put it up up in your DJ program and look at the shapes. And that's where, if you don't do what I just told you, you might end up with a really small waveform, and this will just get it kind of level. And you can start looking at the proportions of the shapes. You can look at your kick compared to your bass, the other sounds. And honestly, to start, I feel like I'm a big fan of using the visual aid to help us match what's happening in the other person's, matching your song to other songs that you like to play. And the size of the shapes ultimately relates to, excuse me, the volume of those sounds. So if their shapes are bigger than yours on a certain sound, turn up the volume. If your shapes are, if a shape gets really big, it's going to turn into a rectangle. And so if your song looks like just a rectangular thing and there's no like open space in it, then bring those sounds down. So I think that's my most basic starting point. And then also, when in doubt, just fucking bounce it and play it and see how it goes. Because if you're doing that in front of your friends or like by yourself, there's no real risk. And I think it can be a good way, especially with like song structure, to be like, oh man, that section like ended way too early, or this section kept on playing for way too long. I think I should shorten it. I think sometimes you can get a lot of good intuition by just DJing your song instead of listening to it from your computer. Is any of that helpful?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And that's what I did with this challenge. So I bounced it, played it on the DJ system, in the car, on the headphones at the gym. So I just kind of like tested out everywhere.
Sick. Awesome, dude. And how's it feeling?
It could be a little bit better. I just kind of want to be able to bounce it real quick. So like if I do come up with something, again, all this is like, I consider it a hobby for me. So, man, I've been into it since the 90s raves. So, just kind of, I've always tinkered with stuff. And now I just kind of, maybe after the pandemic or during the pandemic, take it a little bit more seriously, just, as a hobby and stuff, just having fun. But yeah, definitely.
Unreal. Well, dude, Xavier, to hear that you've been like, been listening and loving dance music for a long time, makes me so happy, because I feel like if you've been listening to this music and living it, dude, you just have so much inspiration to channel when it comes to making it. And so, dude, how about this? I found your SoundCloud link. If you have time after the breakout rooms, can you make your song downloadable? And I'll try to give it a quick listen, and we can look at the waveform, and I can talk you through what I'm seeing and try to like give you some feedback on it. Does that sound cool?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's go. Awesome. Diego, I think you had a wavering hand that you might need to run also. What is your question, dude?
What's up, Justin?
Yo.
Dude, thank you so much for holding space for the community. This is awesome.
Of course.
So my question is kind of twofold. So I would consider myself kind of like upper intermediate in terms of production. And at this point, like I'm really curious about like systems, best practices, stuff to really increase workflow.
Yeah.
Because like I got like tons of ideas in my head, whether it's just like after a workout or when I just wake up, and I just want to be able to like push these tracks out and push these ideas out. So I don't know if you have any recommendations for that, whether it's like workstation setup or like templates or like, you know what I mean? And then secondly, once like the ideas are out and like the songs are out, like best practices for getting your songs out there to the people that you are inspired by, and like kind of like marketing them. So it's kind of twofold, but that's my question.
Dude, phenomenal questions. So I think I'll answer the second one first, because it's pretty simple. In terms of getting your songs out there, one of the best places to start is, but you have to finish them. You have to bounce them down. That's step one. Step two, send them to people, send them to friends, send them to DJs, send them to labels. Have you I know you were able to set, I think I saw your name pop up. Did you send me a 909 track this weekend? Amazing. So dude, what you did there, you obviously sent it into a form. Well, it's funny. There's a lot of labels that accept music in the exact same way. So you literally can do that. For labels that you would need to email, you could say, hey, love your guys' music. Here's a link to some of my songs. cheers from wherever you're based, and be like, that's it. It can be really simple. Same thing on Instagram. And, just, I feel like some people might not respond, but if you send a lot of songs to a lot of different people, it's just a matter of finding the right home and finding the right fit for the music you're actually making. So did that answer that question at all?
Yeah, do you ever worry about sending too much over to the person to where like they'll get annoyed? Or is it just kind of like the squeaky wheel gets the oil kind of thing?
It depends. I was talking with John Summit yesterday about some songs, and he I sent him a song that he wanted to collaborate on, and I was like, send me any tracks. And he sent me one thing, and I was like, dude, feel free to send me a folder. Like, send me 50 songs if you want. And John was like, dude, I get super overwhelmed by that. And so everyone's different. So someone like John Summit, he says that he doesn't like to be overwhelmed with a ton of songs. Other people, I've had labels who say, send me every song you have. And I've sent, like, the label's now shut down, unfortunately, but this label, Lobster Theremin, one of my favorites, that was what I got. That was what I was told. And I sent 30 songs and they signed like 20 songs. I had another label, Shall Not Fade, another one of my favorite labels. Same thing. They asked for 30 songs. They rejected 26 songs, but there was 4 that they liked. And so, everyone's different. I think a sweet spot that I'd recommend is, anywhere from 4 to 10. I think the more variety you have, the better. Because if you send 10 songs that are identical, it's kind of like there's, and I feel like why they might not want to listen to song number 8 or 9. But if you're someone who makes a wide variety of music and you send 10 songs and there's a drum and bass song and a dubstep song and a house song, you might think that sounds crazy, but labels like Dirty Bird are releasing drum and bass music, tech house, and there's a lot of labels out there who are doing the same. So I think it just depends where you're at. But I personally think more is better. Send 4 songs, 5 songs, because the likelihood that you'll find the right song for the right label, your odds go up if you send more songs, and if there's more variety, because dude, it's also this happens all the time where you send tech house songs to a tech house label because all of the songs of them are tech house. But the way labels release music, it often takes a few months to sign a demo and then get it out. So it's possible they're not even signing tech house anymore, and you just don't realize it because they're onto a new thing. And if you had sent them that trance record that you made, maybe that's the one they were going to sign, even though you would not be able to guess that just by looking at their existing discography. Because there's a gap between what's coming out versus what's going to come out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I'd say 5 to 10 is awesome. But it just depends on, I feel like, but don't not send your demo because you only have one. Send that one demo. It's like, it's not like you need to have 5 songs to send a demo. I think just shooting your shots, and yeah, you can send demos to the same person, like every few months if you wanted to. And hey, just following up, not sure if you saw my last email, I also added a few more songs to the playlist. Like that sort of thing. Does that feel like you have some vision for what you could do going forward?
Yeah, that's some clarity, man. Appreciate
Awesome.
that.
And then I'll try to answer your other question too, but I need to ask you a question. So in terms of optimizing the workflow, right off the bat, I never use templates. But where are you the slowest in your process? Because and I can break it down. It's like coming up with loops, or like finding sounds, coming up with loops, structure, mixing, mastering. Where are you slowest?
So I feel like my sound selection is pretty strong. I'm great at coming up with rhythms and loops. Where I get tripped up is like the arrangement and how, like, what elements should be taken out and added back in, and like just like because it, like, it all could work to some degree, but like which elements and tracks fit the best under each other, and just like really making that flow. I think is where I get tripped up, is like the perfectionism of it, because the sound selection's great, the rhythm creation's fun, it's great, and the loops and whatnot, but like where it all fits and like just get it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when you're structuring, I need to get a little bit more specific. Can you make like a buildup and a drop? Like, do you ever feel like you can do that? Or are you just the loop of the bass line type thing?
Yeah, I can make buildups and drops for sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because dude, check this out. If you can do one buildup and a drop, the next thing you should be trying to do is copying. Are you seeing my screen, by the way?
Yeah, yeah.
Is copying the entire section, both the buildup and the drop. Once you've cut it, you can then start thinking, like, look, here's like let's say you are someone who does a buildup and drop, but you fucking go all out. You make all the crazy effects, drum rolls, all these layers, duplicate it. You now have 2 copies. I'm just going to show you what this could look like. So let's say you have like bass, hats, ride cymbal, whoops. Press the wrong buttons. Ride, let's do one more. And this is synth, okay? And let's say you have, let's say your buildup doesn't have the bass, but it has the hats and maybe a synth and maybe like, let's say you have like a vocal. Does this, obviously this is all like blank, but does this kind of look theoretically like a song you might have had, or like a stage in the song where you might have gotten to like a build up and a drop? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So if you take everything and do Shift Command D, you now have 2 copies. What you can start to do is play with muting stuff. So look at this. Take out the ride here. Now this drop is going to feel better. What about taking the hats out here? So that way this breakdown is going to feel a little bit more intense. You can pretty much, make a whole song pretty easily by doing stuff like this. Like, check this out. Put the vocals back there. Then let's copy everything from the beginning. And maybe we can do something where, here, I'll take this out, just kind of rearranging it. We'll have this breakdown be a little bit longer. Maybe we'll have the vocal play by itself. The last time there was no drums before the drop, so this time we'll bring the hats back in leading up to the drop. And this song now has, 3 breakdowns, 3 drops that are all slightly different, but with the same source material. Maybe, a way that I'll think about this is like, maybe I use like a different part of the vocal here. So like different vocal to make this section feel different. Maybe I drop the vocal here and take out the ride here or something like that. So that's sort of the creativity that I think we often fail to use when structuring, because we think we need to create more loops and keep on creating new ideas, when really it's a different type of using your brain. You are moving things around. You are muting and unmuting. You are like directing a play instead of choosing what the dialogue is for each. You're not an actor. You're like a director now. You're not like worried about the dialogue as much. You're now worried about where people are standing in the play. It's like, it is a different type of thinking and a different type of process. And what's cool is the more work that you do to making this first drop feel really good, you're going to be copying all of that automation around also. And so it can really help you make the song very quick. So this is something I deal with all the time, but often it can be really slow to get that first drop feeling good. And you might spend 70% of your time getting that first breakdown and drop to feel good. But then it might take relatively little time to then finish the song, depending on how many ideas you have. Because if you made the final drop of your song that has all of the elements, and then the other drops are just going to be simplified versions, it could be really, really fast. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
Bill Gates talks about making like a super loop where there's like just hella ideas all in one stack and then just kind of like pulling them out. Is that like kind of the same strategy you're talking about? Just like pouring ideas into one loop and then pulling them out into like arrangement afterwards?
Yeah, that's like essentially what it could look like. And the example I showed is probably a good example because there was like everything in the song already. Where the two distinctions is, one, I'm not saying just a loop, I'm saying a breakdown and a drop.
Right.
Two loops essentially. Or what's important about this is having a satisfying drop, you need contrast between the breakdown or the build and the drop itself. One thing that a lot of people do is they might have an awesome bass line and drum groove, but they don't have anything in their mid-range. And so their songs are like this. And when they take out the kick, bass, drums, they literally don't have anything that they could even have in their song. And so that's where I see songs that are like kick and bass the whole time, and there's not really much of a structure. You do need other elements, and depending on the style of music, that's where, you know, it gets more specific in terms of what the advice should look like. But so that's one of the things. It's not just one loop. It often can be two loops, moving from a breakdown to a drop, and then you're copying that bigger chunk. Also, though, this idea of the super loop, dude, I'm very much not into sort of like determined patterns of making songs. Like I don't have a template. I fuck around, have fun. Patterns and you know, like having a formula is not fun. The way that I made the song yesterday was not a super loop. Like I was coming up with new ideas as I went forward, but then looking back and copying them. So there's many different ways to do it, but the only thing to keep in mind is if a small section of your song is feeling good, you need to switch gears and start thinking creatively about how you can copy it around and make it seem different. Does that make sense, Diego?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
Super.
I think and yeah, it's so fun. Like there's a handful of tricks, some of which you've already seen in the past, you know, between today and yesterday, of how to duplicate a section and trick people to feel like it's brand new, you know. And if you look at songs that you love and analyze them for like 2 minutes, 30 seconds even, jump between the drops and see what's different. Sometimes it's not a whole lot. Can you, like, does that resonate with you, that idea?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
It's like a more resourceful way to approach production.
100%. Let's see. I know we're running a little late for the breakout rooms. One last time, are all of you guys, I see 8 questions. Can you guys hang out for a bit longer to talk after the breakout rooms? Amazing. And if other people have questions too, I'm down to hang out. Like honestly, talking about all this stuff is my favorite, and I could talk about it for hours. So I want to do the breakout rooms before it gets too late.
Would you mind if I have my, because I'm in Europe and it's getting like super late.
Ricky, I got you, dude. Yeah, what's up?
Thank you, Justin.
Well, I have a two-parter. Well, one more technical is when you are like processing your whole your whole 808. Like, how do you manage to actually EQ everything, like, so that it doesn't like step on each other, or you just like fuck it and whatever?
Great question. Let me answer it real quick. If the patterns are simple, then it doesn't need EQ. Like it, you know, like I showed, if you remember in the Ballz example, the kick and toms, they never played at the same time. Do you remember me showing that?
Yes.
Because of that, there was no issue. The kick, toms, and clap never played at the same time. I never had to worry about side chaining, EQing, because of how the track was composed, by looking at the open spaces and filling them in accordingly. EQ, compression are only needed depending on the composition of your song. Like, dude, one of my favorite house songs of all time, Can You Feel It by Mr. Fingers. I don't know if you know that song or not, but it's a classic song. On those types of 909 tracks, he couldn't EQ the sounds. Like, that's a 909 going into like a tape recorder or whatever. You know, it's like you could maybe EQ the whole drum kit, but if you look back in time, you were very limited with EQ and all of this technical stuff. And look, dude, I have songs where I have 10 EQs on one element because of problems with other elements. And I sometimes do need to use stuff. I'm not saying never use EQ, but I think this is a bigger misconception, is that so like if you go on YouTube and look up how to mix your song, so often people say always cut out the lows of every element, always put a compressor, always do these things. And I think it's doing that approach can sometimes be good, but it doesn't need to be that way. And sometimes if you want your song to sound like a fucking raw, like sort of old school underground techno track, if you EQ everything to perfection, it could feel more like an EDM song. Not to say that that's worse, but it could just be different. And I think that my big philosophy when it comes to this is like, how little let's use EQ because we need to, and versus using it because
we have to
on every single occasion. Does that make sense?
It perfect sense. And yes, though, thank you. And the second part of my question, well, it's more of like a existential question, I guess. It's like, do you ever feel like being too like versatile in making many genres of music can actually like bite you in the ass and like become that DJ or producer that's not known for like making something and just be there like being with a ship without a sail, I guess, you know?
Great question. It's funny because my label's called Fantastic Voyage. That's such a that's on point. You know, I think, dude, I have taken so many risks with my career in terms of, dude, when I was you know, started out making just house music on Dirty Bird. I started releasing music on other people's labels that were very different from Dirty Bird, whether it's old deep house labels or some techno labels and things like that. And I was worried about people being confused. But when I DJ, I would just DJ all that shit. And so people kind of got what they came for. Then I started wanting to sing and play with a band. And, you know, at first people were like, why is there a guitar player? I thought you were a DJ. And I just kept on doing it. And then after a certain point, people just understood it. And then I would occasionally DJ and people would say the opposite. They'd be like, why are you DJing? I thought you were a band. And what became true for me was like, either way, whatever I was making became similar to what I was playing. And I feel like, look, there were times where some people were confused, but I think I prioritized my fun and my enjoyment. And what's cool is every step along the way, there might be one person there who is like, I see you and I fuck with it and I get it and I'm here. And I feel like, dude, making music for me, if I'm not having fun, I can't do it. And it's just not, it just sucks, honestly. And if I'm having fun though, then I finish the song. Maybe it has that extra bit of magic in it. And I think the people in the audience who can listen, I feel like are often way more intelligent than we might think. And nowadays also, dude, we're just moving to this time where I think these ideas that I'm talking about are becoming more and more well represented across like all different types of scenes. You know, John Summit playing dubstep, people like Nicky Nair who DJ from 120 BPM to 170 BPM. You know, I think people, look, there are some corners of music that are more specific. You know, I've released some techno releases on like Nicole Mudaber's label, and you know, I feel
wasn't
like
expecting that, but yeah.
What'd you say?
No, I wasn't expecting that. You made that. not techno.
Yeah, dude.
But
And
whatever.
it's funny. It's like, look, you know, people might not come to me and expect me to play an hour of techno, but that's not really what I would do anyways. But I might
Yeah.
play some techno. And I just think, look, there's no, like, the world, if you are another person who fits perfectly in the box of like this genre of music, people might understand you. They'll be like, okay, Ricky makes, you know,
Everything.
yeah,
Reggaeton to drum and bass. Everything.
Dude. And you know, I think the real shit, this is one of my favorite things about art on like a very deep level. Society and culture so often wants to create boxes of categorization. Oh, this kind of music, that kind of music. I feel like one of the best things about art and artists is that we can break down walls and blur the lines between different things and show people that the boxes don't need to be there. And I think what's so funny is like dubstep, for instance. There was a time that dubstep didn't exist, right? Dubstep has not been around since the beginning of time. But what happened is in the UK, there were a bunch of artists who liked UK grime, they liked UK garage, they liked reggae dub music. Those are all very different styles of music. And they were like, what if we just kind of took a little bit of everything and made it together and you ended up with a whole new style of music? I feel like even if you listen to, like, if you look at John Summit, even the songs that you think are tech house tracks might have like inspiration from melodic techno, or we were talking about this. He's like, I actually love trance, and there's like a lot of trance ideas in there, but you just think he's tech house because that's what everyone says he is. And that's like also one of the funniest things is like, if you actually look at the music, it might not even match what someone's brand is. And I just think at a certain point, you might not have control over it. But this idea of, I think great music does not come from a pre-calculated formula. It comes from your heart. And sometimes sometimes you might be the last person to realize that your song is actually like a perfect fit for a trance label, even though you were thinking you were making a house song. Like, I don't know, you know, it's just, you can't predict this shit. And to Diego's question about sending music out, if you just make what you want to make and send it out to people, it'll find the right home. And if you can't find a home, you must be doing something super unique. And that is really interesting too, because you might be doing your own thing. And I don't know, I just think we're in this time of blurring lines. One last label I would recommend you check out. Have you heard of Tra Tra Tracks by any chance?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Techno, reggaeton, house music, right? Like,
really nice guy. Yeah.
They're so sick. Dude, I'm so glad that you know their music. Dude, everything is fair game, and it's about being open to what you actually like and then figure out just how to have fun. Did that answer your question?
Yes, a lot, and thank you, and especially like navigating through like these like awesome world of music. Like I feel like sometimes like you wanna like you punish yourself, like I gotta make this banger, but in reality maybe my mood is for making like a really chill liquid track, and I'll just make the chill liquid track, I guess.
Dude, and if that chill liquid track might be the song that like John Summit might play, because he's like, oh, I've been looking for a magical drum and bass song. And you know, it's like you can't predict this shit. Like when I made my first dubstep song, I didn't expect him to play it. And look, if you say no, I can't make that liquid drum and bass song, you might be missing out on something special, and you're gonna have way less fun. Like you just have to imagine like a manager or a record label was in the studio with you being like, no, you can't do that. If you were a real artist, you'd be like, fuck you. You can't tell me what to do. Right? And I think the more that we can bring that energy of just like fun, do what you want, total freedom while we're making music, I think that's just the best. Does that resonate with anyone else?
Thank you, man.
Of course. Fuck yeah. Great question. Dude, thank you for sticking around late. I know it must be very, very late over in Europe, but Ricky, stoked to have you in the mix, dude. Fuck yeah. All right, let's do these breakout rooms. And what's great is they can be extra intimate. Let's see. So I have a few homies from, so let me just reiterate the rules here. We got to keep it positive because we don't want to discourage anyone who's brand new to Ableton. And for anyone out there, we want to, first of all, celebrate that you made something, celebrate that you're sharing something, because both of those things alone are worth celebrating. Beyond that, and if you don't have anything to share, you should still stick around because I think it's just worth hanging out. And then I think as a producer, what you should listen for is like, listen to what is working. And this is something that I think is a really good skill. You know, being able to listen to a song, even if it's a work in progress, and be like, oh, this bass line, this groove, this sound is really cool. It can be a difficult skill, but one that's worth practicing. Find the things that are working. Are people on board with the positivity and that sort of vibe? Okay, sweet. Let me create the breakout rooms.
And we're back. And we're back.
And we're back.
Oh my God, I didn't even get to finish listening to everybody's music.
Damn, I'm so sorry.
I was like, shit, we got 1 minute left, guys.
Dude, I'm so sorry.
Just in the middle of the listening session.
I will say though, amazing tracks on my group. Like I'm very happy that that Eddie, like it was his first time opening like Ableton and everything, and his track was just like amazing. I was like amazed by every single one of my group. Like huge shout out to everyone.
It's so beautiful. Oh, I'm so sorry for anyone who got cut short. Thank you all of the homies for hosting and for everyone just being willing to share. I hope everyone had a great experience. If you did not get the chance to connect with someone, make sure to either drop your socials in the Zoom or connect on Discord. And what I'll do, I'll send the text, the group text, or what's it called? A text transcript of like the Zoom chat. So for anyone who wants to like forgets to click on something, you'll be able to like go back and click on a link that was dropped in this chat.
Hey, Justin.
Oh yeah, what's up?
I have a request. Since we didn't get to do the mics off cheer for the tracks that we listen to in our group, can we just do a collective one for everybody?
Everyone unmute, make some noise for each other. Let's go.
So sick.
Great job. Great job.
Awesome.
Bravo, everyone.
Dude, Kevin, thank you so much for for mentioning that. Awesome. Okay, sweet. Give me thumbs up. Give me thumbs up if you had some fun meeting each other, sharing some music. Awesome. And yeah, I think a good note to highlight is just, I feel like making music, it can obviously be such a solitary thing, but having community around you makes it so much better. It helps so much with learning, having fun, getting unstuck, getting, if you're stuck in your head, stuck in a rut of some sort. I feel like community is one of the most powerful things to break out of that. And just for all of you people who are here, pushing on 3 hours, like obviously we all love music so much, and to be able to like share space with people who feel the same way is just unbeatable. And this does not have to end here. Please meet each other, stay in touch, and so awesome. Sweet. So yeah, I do feel bad about cutting things short. I've wanted to have a little bit more time I know there are a bunch of people who didn't have their questions answered. Maybe because I think I'm gonna have to go. I could probably stay another 20 minutes. I'm here with at my sister's place, and she's like, if you don't get off for dinner, you're not eating. And I'm like, okay. But I could obviously do this all night.
The fam will get you. The fam will get you, man.
Yes. All right. So yeah, let's
continue.
100%. But let's fucking go. And yeah, just a reminder, I'm gonna try and see if I can hustle a cool special guest speaker in the next few weeks and do another one of these big old Zooms. So this will hopefully not be the last time, even in the immediate future. All right, so let's keep it going. Let's see, Connor, what is your question?
First off, Justin, thank you so much for honestly one of the most life-changing experiences being on this weekend. You have absolutely just blown my mind. Everyone in this group all should give themselves a huge pat on the back. Like, you guys are the best community possible. So my question first and foremost is, I guess I asked this in the breakout group, but I also love to know your take on it. Is when do you call a track done from a mixing perspective? When do you call it done from a mastering perspective? I know there's never really a done moment, but I think my biggest struggle with like when I'm producing is not really sure when to say, okay, time to just put it up, or okay, done. I put it out there. So what's your take?
Totally. Well, so I think, you know, objectively, a song being done. Well, you know, I think a song could be done. The funny thing about it is it's really up to each artist to define what it even means to have a song being done, you know, but I think, you know, it's funny. It's like, you could say your song is done at any point and be like, I'm no longer working on this. I'm going to self-release it, even if it's a rough draft. You know, I'm just like, it's done. And then you could make a remix and a VIP version and make infinite versions. And so it's like, I think it's pretty funny how in dance music, like when dance songs were first being released on vinyl, it was super common to have like 7 versions of the same song released, you know, like the club mix, the Ibiza mix, the late night mix, you know. If you look at old 12-inch records, it's really funny how it'll be the same song like 5 times. With dance music, often I feel like there's no right or wrong way to make a song, and you could have the same song exist in infinite iterations and remixes and edits. So I feel like my approach, as much as possible, is to say good enough. I try to say good enough as quickly as possible. The ways that help me get to good enough quickly are to play my song like to DJ a song myself, send it to a friend, send it to a label, send it to an artist, and try to do that as quickly as possible. And look, here's the funny thing, dude. I mentioned a label, Lobster Theremin, who signed like 20 of my songs. A bunch of them were like rough drafts. And, you know, I actually did go back and tweak a few songs a little bit, but it's so funny. Like I had some songs were complete rough drafts, in my opinion, and the label's like, nope, this is good. And I think it's just like at every stage, you might be overthinking, you might be overcritical, and you need to figure out how to get past that. And I think really the only way to get past that is just to say fuck it, and to get other people to help you along that journey, because it's like, yeah, dude, your song might be done and you should just upload it to SoundCloud like right now. And I think the more you put yourself out there, the more you can help refine that gauge, you know. So I guess, Connor, have you released any songs on SoundCloud or in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, so funny you should mention that. I do a lot of remixes of songs, and I'm working on a few original tracks, like kind of this in the same boat, like gotta say that find that fuck it moment. Yeah. Yeah, I have a couple of remixes on SoundCloud right now.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. So I think, first of all, huge respect, because you're doing it. You're putting your songs out there, and those remixes that you put up, you have said, this is done. You know, and I think you know, so you have your own gauge for at least those songs. You might have been really excited. There might be some songs that you get stuck on. You're like, it doesn't feel ready. That's super normal too. I have many of those that have not been done. You know, songs that I might have gotten stuck on or never ended up finishing, and they're in the work in progress folder. I feel like I try as much as possible to send those demos out also. You know, because
feel that
it's like you just might be really surprised. And look, I think it's kind of a cool approach to send out a bunch of songs to people and have them figure out which songs are done. You know, and I think another a fun way you can challenge yourself is like try uploading a song that you think is not done but is good enough and see how that feels, and see if one person likes it and is like, yo, this song is cool, or gives it a heart on SoundCloud. One person, that person thinks it's done. You know. And look, dude, I mean, you could release a hit song that has 1 billion streams on Spotify and is like a smash single, and people out there might be like, oh, I don't really love the synth. You know, it's like, you know, just it doesn't matter. You know, there's always something you could critique or something that could be different. You could have 5 remixes of the same song. It's like, dude, just fuck it, get it out and on to the next one is my biggest mindset. Does that resonate at all?
That totally resonates. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for like this. Meeting everyone here has been fantastic, and meeting you is, you know, it's kind of like a dream. So honestly,
Hunter, you're the man, dude. Dude, really appreciate all your kind words and glad to have you in the mix. And I feel like I remember you made some of the drum and bass remixes,
yes,
right? Dude,
yes,
killing it.
yeah.
Keep it going, dude. Fuck yeah. Unreal. Dude. Yes, so awesome. All right, let's keep it rolling. Lauren, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. What's up?
Okay, I don't know if there's a simple answer to this question. But what are some ways to make your production sound better and less compressed or dull? Like you mentioned, like with your homies track, like turning up the volume. Is it like sometimes just as simple as like turning up the volume, or like is it mostly just like your instrument or sound quality that you're using, or like exporting your shit? I don't know.
Totally feel you. Great question. Just to get more clarity, what do you, because I don't know anything about the kind of music you're into.
I am
what are you
like,
inspired by?
this is the first time I ever opened Ableton and ever made a song.
Let's go. That's so awesome.
I'm completely like inexperienced in making music, but I DJ and I love UKG and house and like hip hop and bass music and really like all genres. But I just noticed like you'll listen to some songs and you can tell that it like sounds more compressed, as opposed to like obviously like producers like Chami and Mala, their sounds are like so crisp. And I'm just like wonder like being like brand new and a beginner, like how do you make sure that you're not gonna sound like so dull or like not as crisp when you're like making your music?
Totally. Really great question. So, okay, a couple things. One, so you mentioned like Chami, for instance. When I think of Chami's music, I think of these songs that sound huge and like so perfectly mixed, right? You know, I feel like there is definitely a spectrum of sound and aesthetic that's possible, but you know, I think depending on what you make, it doesn't necessarily need to be just as crisp as Chami, but maybe like in a range, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I know that it's like, I think you want to make one thing that's really important off the bat is to not fixate too much on comparing like too intensely, because if your song is like in the ballpark, then it's fine. Even if it's like you're choosing someone who's like really unbelievably like crisp.
You
know, and it's just funny because I think in terms of art and music, you might not like this music at all, but you know, there's like, just in terms of how there's no rules, you know, like there's amazing songs that sound like this. which like is the least crisp, like huge sounding thing. And, it's like lo-fi house and whatnot. And, you can play, there's such a spectrum out there for what a song can sound like. And, I just think it's important to acknowledge, because like, yo, Lauren, if you made a song that maybe isn't as crisp as Chami, but is still an absolute banger, there might be a bunch of amazing artists that you like who would still be down to play it and sign it. And you might not sound and Chami might be into it too. And he might be like, this sounds awesome. We just need to get it mastered a little differently, and you'll be killing it. So I think the important,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the important thing is not to fixate to the point where you're like scrapping songs or not finishing songs because it isn't as crisp as like the biggest Chami song of all time.
I could honestly like see me doing that. So like that advice is really helpful. Just like me listening and being like, oh, I wish the bass was like a little better, but like it really matters just like how you compose it, So
100%. And you mentioned UKG, like some UKG is very dusty and lo-fi sounding, but it's awesome, like Burial. And then other stuff is like huge, and Chami could play some of those like really crisp records. So it's, I think what's interesting is like I mentioned earlier about the analogy with like photography. I think leaning into like that unedited Polaroid snapshot of Lauren making her first song, or like her third song, and what are the tools you have at your disposal? What's your intuition telling you? It might sound different than the 500th Chami song that he's ever made, but it will have your own personality and character, and it could be really awesome. So I think that's more like mindset stuff, which, but I can give you some concrete advice as well.
Okay.
So, and I'm sure a lot of people will be like, and this is like a very simple rule of thumb. Okay. So when it comes to mastering a song, the better the mix, the easier it is to master. So like did you see on my Ballz song, I just put like the stock Ableton limiter, like one plugin.
Yeah.
I've had experiences. Are you familiar with an artist named Claude Von Stroke by any chance?
Yeah, for sure.
So a couple years ago, I did a collab EP with him, and a bunch of the songs are on my computer. I bounced down like the self masters with just one stock Ableton limiter. And he was like, cool, let's also get it mastered by this super fancy vinyl mastering guy who takes 4 months to master and has all this fancy equipment.
Wow.
So we waited months. He gets the masters back, and for 2 of the songs, Claude is like, hey, can we use your masters instead, actually? Which is just the limiter. Now, the reason this happened is because sometimes a mastering person can do a bunch of fancy stuff and make your song feel different. And it might be fine, but it might not be what you're used to or what you like. And I think Claude just got used to the way my masters sounded. And so the fancy equipment, the fancy techniques mattered less in that situation. So mastering can be really simple, just that limiter. If your mix is good. How do you get your mix to be good? The key to get good mixes, especially early on, is to create simple songs. The more simple your composition, the easier it is to mix. Like I've made songs with 200, 300 tracks layered together. If you can't mix a song with 3 or 5 sounds, it's going to be like impossible to get 300 sounds to work with each other. And the way you get 300 sounds to work with each other is by breaking things into groups, looping all the vocals together, or grouping all the vocals together, grouping all the drums together, creating almost like a fractal until you might have 3 or 5 sounds, 3 or 5 groups. It's like you end up breaking things down, and to get all of your vocals together, you might have 5 vocals. You got to be able to mix 5 things together. And these 909 challenge type things, it's like Jonathan with that song that he got played at Coachella. It's like literally a 909 and a vocal. two sounds, but getting the volume right between them, and I think more importantly, getting the musical idea where it's not, it wasn't like things were too cluttered or too busy. Everything had its like space. And finally, the sound selection was really on point with just 909. Great sounds. They work. Satisfaction vocal. It works great. You see what I'm kind of painting? It's like if you have good sounds and a simple composition, the mix can be really easy, and then the mastering can be really simple. So it's like,
Okay.
For anyone who's new or anyone who's trying to get better, my biggest piece of advice is to simplify your composition and start with really simple ideas for a song to develop your skills and sharpen them. Because when you can make 3 sounds hit really, really hard, you're going to end up using those same techniques and your same ear to make more complicated songs and make those hit harder. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that actually helped a lot. Like this whole workshop has been fucking awesome. Like I've been wanting to like make a song in Ableton for forever and like just didn't really know where to start and like looked up tutorials, but like they were really complicated. So just like breaking it down like this and like breaking it down to like the simple like drum machines, I feel like it makes so much sense because you're just like starting with the basics and then you're really building on those skills. So it's just like a really great way of like breaking it down. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Of course. No, I really appreciate the kind words, and I'm excited for you. And yeah, it's like the fact that you're interested in like UKG, for instance. It's like, that's the type of music that I love. And often, if you can do the 909 challenge, bridging that gap into making a UKG banger is so doable.
I made my 909 UKG. Just like I didn't even mean to. It just happened.
Let's go. That's awesome. Oh, so awesome. Lauren, so stoked, and yeah, I'm rooting for you.
Thank
Really
you.
awesome.
I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, let's keep it rolling. Jose, are you there by any chance?
I am here. I was just cooking right now. So
you're good.
That's why I don't have the video on.
I got you, dude. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes. So it's pretty much around the same theme that Connor said earlier. But he focuses more about like how finishing the song. Where my part is, when do you know when to step out of the production process? Because I really struggle, and I bet a lot of people do too, to spend too much time producing. And I just get fatigued, and like I end up just pretty much destroying what I was building up to because my ears get so fatigued that I don't really know how to like step out. And then some more times I just step out too soon, and then I just don't finish up the idea. Like, do you have any tips on when to keep producing versus when to stepping out?
Yeah, totally. How did this weekend go for you? Did you make a 909 track by any chance?
I actually make 3 of them.
Let's fucking go. Let's go.
I was just really happy and excited to put the limiter on the master. That's what hit me for like just releasing a song or make it done. That's so important.
Dude,
I was like
huge.
simplifying the whole thing. Yes.
Put the limiter on the master and it's just like boom. Crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, so here's yeah, I mean, I think having a deadline helps. Literally setting a timer, that can be a really great tool. And then having a friend or someone else to send it to, or a label, you do that, boom. I feel like those are my 3 tips. Is that helpful at all?
Okay. Yes.
And
okay, so
that's kind of what you experienced in the past 24 hours also, right?
Right. Yes, that's right. So having a deadline, just timing you and like just sharing the music with somebody else helps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like in my boot camp class, like one of the things that I do, I challenge people to make as many songs as they possibly can. And to do that, all you have to do is set a timer and say 45 minutes, let's fucking go. And the biggest thing that wastes time is you second guessing, overthinking,
Hmm.
being like, oh, it's not good enough, and being like, no, fuck it. Because when I put the limiter on in 30 minutes from now, it's going to sound huge. You know,
Right.
so like
That's
that
right.
sort of energy, fucking go, stop overthinking. So powerful. And I think, you know, yeah, just you got to get out of your bubble. Because I think that if it's an echo chamber of like judgment and negativity, sometimes it just takes one friend to be like, yo, this is sick, to be like, all right, I think I'm done.
That's right.
Fuck
Thank you
yeah.
for sharing that, man. I appreciate you.
Of course, dude. Stoked. It's 3 tracks. That's amazing. Let's
crazy.
fucking go. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Unreal. All right. I have like 4 minutes. My sister's gonna kill me. Ian, what's your question, dude?
So ultimately I wanted to ask more along the lines of utilizing social media as a platform as an artist. Go to tips, tricks in utilizing any one or every social media platform in regards to promoting your music, or just yourself as an artist.
What I do, I like to DJ. I film myself DJing. I like to make songs. I don't do the best job of it, but I like to show people the songs I make. You know, I feel like that's the best starting point. Instagram and TikTok reels and just like videos seem to do really well. And I think, you know, if you think about just capturing video of what you like to do, that's the best place to start. And the more you post stuff, share yourself, you can see if anything seems to be connecting with people and taking that information accordingly.
Okay.
But you just got to keep on putting yourself out there to see what sticks. And it's just a crapshoot and it's just chaos, but you can just keep on posting and see see what feels good.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I just want to thank you. Thank you for having all of us. I've been stuck for like months trying to make anything, and I sat down this morning after submitting my 909 submission on a track that I've been sitting on for months, saying I'm not sure where it's at, whether or not it's done. And that again, that limiter thing, I just threw a limiter on the end of the track on the master, and I just said, "Fuck it, all right, let's hear it," and played it in the car. And I'm just like, where the fuck? Why was I so stressed about this? So thank you again. I very much appreciate it.
Ian, I'm so stoked. Oh, yes, let's fucking go. And dude, let's keep that momentum going. So awesome, dude. All right. Rapid fire. Dylan, what is up, my dude?
What's up, bro? So I think I already kind of know the answer. I guess I'm just looking for some reassurance. Kind of in the process of finding a new city to go to, and I just wondered, like, in your opinion, you know, how much does it matter really to go to a city that, you know, in terms of like following music, and like a city that has like a really big established scene, or like a really good up and coming growing scene, you know, obviously like New York, Miami, LA, or like some of the top, you know, bustling music scenes. But you know, for somebody who's been around a bit, you know, as far as like, you know, if I was in a city in the middle of nowhere, you know, how much do you think that like affects, you know, getting your music out there, getting gigs and stuff?
Great question, dude. You know, I feel like it is not necessary to be in a place that's popping if you can connect with people online. So I feel like the fact that you're here, dude, like connecting with people in this Zoom chat is what I would recommend, because if you do have an online community, it does not matter where you are. If you are not connecting with people online and you're not connecting with people in person, then you are alone. If you are in a place that doesn't have a big scene, if you have friends who like the same kind of music, maybe you can start something with your homies and do something that's underrepresented in your city. Could be an uphill battle, could also be an opportunity. So I think you could go to a big city where the scene's popping, but you don't feel like you can really get your foot in the door. I'd say, you know, more important factors are just like overall quality of life. Like if you feel sad because you can't go to see music you like on the weekends, maybe that would inspire the move. You know, I feel like you can be on an island with nothing and use the internet and like create a career. I think community is the most important thing for me, and that can be done either way. But yeah, dude, just if you want to move somewhere, just follow your heart. Because and look, it can be counterintuitive. Like I grew up in LA, lived in LA my whole life. A year ago, I moved to Boulder because I had a crush on a girl who was like moving there, and I was like, I'll come with you. And LA is like the city that everyone moves to like make it in the music industry. A year in Boulder, Colorado was like incredible for me in all these ways that I couldn't predict and expect. And Denver, I think, is, an amazing place for music in so many ways. So Boulder's not like the middle of nowhere, but if you follow your heart, it might take you to places you wouldn't expect that could be awesome. So that's my advice. Does any of that resonate?
Oh yeah, for sure. Just like in your opinion, what do you think like some of the more like up and coming cities are? I've heard a lot about like Austin and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on the music you're into to a certain degree, but dude, I love
True.
Denver. I think it's awesome, but all of them are great. LA, San Francisco, New York, Miami, Chicago, Detroit. The smaller cities too can have their own really tight-knit music scenes and can be easier to meet people in some cases. So I think there's no right or wrong. The world is your oyster, and yeah, just follow your heart,
Send
dude.
it.
Send it. Awesome.
Thank bro. Thanks.
I'm
Appreciate it.
so committed to trying to getting everyone's questions. Nisha, did I say your name right? Awesome. Let's see. And you are muted.
I muted it. I'm
What's
sorry.
up?
Well, first I wanted to say yes, Denver represent. That's where I'm at right now. Second of all, I wanted to let you know because I was just hanging out with Option 4 the other day. He literally just signed me now, so I'm a DJ now for him. So I was
Let's
like,
go.
yeah, let's go. But I started doing I love that you showed me how to do that reggaeton beat because I'm trying to do island music basically because I'm from Bahamas. So basically when I am putting it in my DAW and everything like how you guys have it lined up, that mastering part of it that you keep saying, you're saying basically I trying to make sure I figure it out. You're saying I need to do it piece by piece and section everything off when you're in that process. Like you
Oh,
have to like break it down.
okay. Well, so I like the I think in terms of like the mastering thing, that's all the mastering is putting the limiter on this channel that says master. So let me master this project. All mastering is limiter, and then you mess with this one knob to
Oh,
get
that's
the
when you said
loudness.
don't let it go beyond -12.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay. But so then that's mixing then. Wait, is that the mixing then when you breaking it down? Because you said if you have like 300 beats.
Okay, yes. So
Yeah.
so with mixing, what mixing is, okay, mastering, you put
Uh-huh.
is when you put effects on the entire song to make all of your different sounds come together. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it does.
See how this thing is labeled master?
Right.
That is where mastering takes place, and it contains everything in your song.
Okay.
Mixing is when you do stuff to the individual sounds in your song, the bass, the hats, the synth, the
Oh,
vocals.
I'm so new at it.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. And
So
honestly,
I'm just like I wanted to make sure I understood that.
yeah, and the terminology doesn't really matter. Like it's like, dude, I feel like I didn't understand what mixing was for like years. I was like, what are you talking about? Because I would just mixing, if you want to mix your song, that could
Uh-huh.
mean adjusting the volume.
Oh my
you know
God. Well,
and
that's
I was
good to
like,
know.
why is that mixing? I'm like, just adjusting the volume. It doesn't matter what you call it, but that's when people talk about mixing, it's adjusting the volume, using some other tools that honestly, like for the 909 challenge, are not even that important. But EQ is a big one, compression is another, but I feel like it's so easy to overcomplicate your songs with those tools when you are just using them kind of randomly. But dude, volume. Start with like, it's like with the 909 challenge, the 909 in the vocal. if the vocal's too loud, the drums are going to sound quiet. If you got to bring the vocals down, or maybe the drums are so loud in the vocal you can't hear the words, so you got to bring the volume up. That's like, and seriously, so many times I sent tracks from people that don't sound amazing, and they could if they just turned the volume of the vocals up or turned the
Oh
volume
yeah,
of
I did hear you say that with that other track you had. You just literally, that was that Whitney Houston song or something. You
exactly.
just turned the volume up that one time and that was it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Seriously. That is literally what happened. The kick was quiet. You turn that big kick drum up, and then you get boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden, the track feels like it hits so hard. So, yeah, was this helpful? Did I answer your question?
No,
I
you
don't know if
did,
I
you
did.
did. I think I
Okay.
did because like you basically, I feel like I'm getting so much information, so that's why I was like, oh, I want to try and remember as much as I possibly can. So I could have broken it down worse, and I could have said it a better way, but
No.
you answered it pretty good.
Okay, awesome. And you're chilling. And honestly, like, dude, all the terminology and stuff, I feel like is so unnecessary. We just needed to
Okay.
like get on the same page so that I could figure out what you were curious about. But
Right.
yeah, like, dude, all of these words, and here's the thing, it's like, Nisha, you could make an absolute banger and be like, how did you mix this? And be like, I don't even know what mixing is. And a lot of people would probably be very jealous of you. So it's like
Okay.
it's crazy like how unimportant the technical aspects can be if you're keeping your song simple, you know. So yeah, I don't know, just keep at it, and hope to see you around Denver.
I hope so too. Bye.
Awesome. Much love, of
Thank you.
course. And then one last one. Sid, are you there?
Hey, Justin. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I'll make this real quick. Is there any like a right way or like correct way to start your record label from scratch and put out your music out there? Like, what's the process like?
Yeah. Well, to release a song yourself, you only need two things: an audio file and a JPEG. Music and artwork. That's literally all you need. So if you wanted to self-release a song tonight, you would need a JPEG, you would need an audio file, and that's literally it. To start a record label, you just need a name for your label. And
we are Awakenings Records, so I'm like trying to make it like, how do I put out my name out there and get more like, I would say, like more producers to join my label, and
yeah, I mean, it's about community, finding other artists that you like and make friends with. I feel like make sure to join the Discord. Be like, hey, I'm starting a label. Send me music. They're like, dude, what? No way. It can be so simple. There's more best practices. It can be nice to have a few releases figured out before you start. That way you can do them one a month or something like that, versus one release and then 3 years later another song. But that's okay too. I would say, there's no right or wrong, and if you are excited to do it, just fucking go for it. And I think in terms of if you want to be more strategic, I think maybe that's something I can try to speak to in my next Zoom, because I feel like I could definitely talk about that for quite a while, and it'd be really fun. So short answer, you need so little to do it. And then the long answer is, there's a bunch of things that could maybe help, but not necessarily the case that you need to wait to do all that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Of course. Guys, thank you all so much. Really excited. Also, so awesome to see that bunch of people already hitting me up about the class. I'm going to drop that link, because every single year that I've done it, it fills up, and there's people who I have to say, like, it's full, and that always sucks. It's not the end of the world if it fills up, because I keep on doing more free stuff regardless, but the class is super fun. We get to go super deep together. I get to know everyone in the class very well, because we confront all of our insecurities and get everyone unstuck. It's my favorite thing to see. And like last year, like on New Year's, which was like halfway through the class, I think I played maybe a dozen songs that people had made in the class at like a big festival. And it's just like my whole goal is getting people unstuck, whether you're brand new or have been doing this a long time, making music, songs that I can play in my sets, songs that I can sign, songs that could get played and signed by other artists too. So much fun. If you are curious or tempted at all or want any information, I just dropped some links. Wait, that was like a link to schedule a call. Let me drop one more. Here's one for more info. But yeah, if you're on the fence, shoot me a message, reach out to me, talk to me. I feel like the class is very much a community driven thing. And so I love getting to meet people and to connect with people. And just in general, like the 48 of you who are here after 3 hours, like we are all so like in this, and we could keep on talking for hours and hours about all this stuff. So it's to be able to connect with anyone who shares this like enthusiasm and this passion is literally my favorite thing. So shoot me a message, connect with me. And regardless, even if you're like, dude, holidays, I'm traveling, I can't do it. First off, let's keep in touch regardless, and more free stuff to come. But one last thing that I would say in terms of free time, the very first year we had this homie in the class who goes by Wolf Stacks, and he does work. He was doing work as like a contractor, doing like electrical work, and he was traveling and he was in hotels, and he would get home. He would tell me at like 2 a.m, and I would have to be back out at like 7. And he was like, dude, I'm gonna make music for 3 hours and sleep for 4 hours or whatever. And I would say, like, dude, set a 30-minute timer and see if you can make 4 songs in 2 hours. And that sounds crazy, but even for people who don't have a lot of free time, sometimes the less time that you have available can actually speed up your productivity, because you can't waste the time on just like listening to hi-hats. You have to just choose a hi-hat and make your fucking song. So if anyone has any questions about the class, feel free to message me too. But until then, my hope is to try to do another one of these in the next couple of weeks. So I hope to see each and every one of you again. And Adam, I got COVID through half the boot camp and worked full time through the other half and still made 40 tracks. So don't be afraid to take the class even if you're busy. Adam, you want to hop on the mic and elaborate on your experience?
There's not much to elaborate. Like, those are the facts. It still happens. People around to help you push through. You find time where you thought you never had time before. I'd set my alarm half an hour earlier in the morning, pull up my laptop onto my bed with Ableton instead of reading the news on my phone, make a track before going to work, come home at the end of the day, make a track before dinner. Just the whole new mindset. You would not believe how much you can actually do in a day if you are supported and sort of reprioritize what is bringing you joy.
Insane. And your job is pretty intense, right?
I'm a commercial litigation lawyer, so I work I don't know, like it depends. I work at a chill firm, but it can be, I mean, the last month I was billing 140 50 hours a month kind of thing, and still making music thanks to some of these skills. So
insane. And do you have fun when you make music?
Obviously, yes. Yeah, wouldn't be here if it wasn't fun. So
100%, dude. I feel like that's the only way. Damn, dude. So inspiring. Like, that is fucking crazy. By the way, everyone check out Adam. His music is so awesome. And yeah, I'm such a fan, dude. But yes, dude, so inspiring. And I think, yeah, my biggest goal for everyone here: create, have fun, get unstuck, and share those good vibes out into the world, whether you're doing this for from your bedroom, if you're DJing, whatever stage you're at. I think just more of this good energy. We can't get enough of it. And on that note, I bid you all farewell. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you all so much for hanging out all evening, all afternoon, and I hope to stay in touch.
Take care, man. Thank
Much
you for
love,
the
everybody.
Justin.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.
Yes, bye.